complaints about Germany in his first term was that Germany was too dependent on Russian natural gas, that it was trying to build a new pipeline called Nord Stream 2.
That's because
he put sanctions on Nord Stream 2.
Right.
Yeah. And now he's been totally vindicated about that. The Germans even acknowledged now that, he was absolutely right about this. But the AfD, they want to reopen the Nord Stream 2 pipeline, which was blown up earlier in the war. So they have a policy that is completely diametrically opposed to what Trump wanted from Germany when he was in his first term. So I think the impression remains that it's more of a kind of a provocation, perhaps, or just kind of trying to sort of shake things up from Elon Musk rather than necessarily strategically thinking, we have the same goals as this party.
I mean, I don't think it's strategic in terms of reading the party platform of the AfD and saying, oh, this, or that he really thinks about it. But I think the information he's getting, he's informed also online, and he's getting this information about all of the problems in Germany. And Germany needs, just like the United States, disruptors. It needs people to come in and clean up and make it, function again, help the economy, get rid of all this, unnecessary bureaucracy. I think that's kind of where Elon Musk is coming from.
Let me just say, too, if you're just joining us, you're watching DW's special coverage of the inauguration of Donald Trump. In just a few minutes from now, we're expecting to see Donald Trump take the oath of office and become the 47th U.S. president. What you're seeing is inside the U.S. Capitol Rotunda. That is where the ceremony is going to take place. This is an unusual site for a U.S. presidential inauguration. It usually takes place outside in front of the Capitol building, but due to the cold weather this year, they decided to bring it indoors. And there you see a wide shot inside the rotunda.
But it's quite interesting to see this sort of seating order there, isn't it?
And Mr. Emhoff, the Republican staff director of the Joint Congressional Committee on Inaugural Ceremonies, Ms. Emily Leviner, the Senate Secretary for the Minority, the Honorable Gary Myrick, the House of Representatives Chief Administrative Officer, the Honorable Catherine Spindor, and Mr. Bruce Fisher.
Yeah, I heard him mention the Vice President's husband's name.
But that you have, we just saw, I'm sure we'll cut to closer soon, that we saw members of the Trump family, Don Jr., for instance.
Joe Biden and Mr. Douglas Emhoff.
And here comes the Vice President. The First Lady and the first Vice
and the second gentleman.
The second gentleman, yes.
First Vice Gentleman.
The second gentleman.
But there's Tim Cook of Apple. So you've really got, these top tech guys are right up in the prime seats. Sort of just behind the Trump family. So catapulted into where the cameras will see them. There's.
But you're saying there's no attempt then to hide the prominence and the place they have in this incoming administration.
Right.
There are some who would probably prefer to be a little bit out of sight. I'm sure Tim Cook has mixed feelings about this. But there are others, obviously, we know Musk is 100% with the project. And there are some where you see, early signs, Mark Zuckerberg and, in particular, I think, he recently announced changes at Facebook that really swing very much kind of behind a kind of Trump view of what social media platforms should be like.
Essentially it's taking on a similar method to fact check that X has. So,
Meta's getting rid of fact checking on Facebook, but can they can't really do that here in Europe though, right? Or
Europe can regulate speech in a way that's different from the United States. The United States, there's almost no speech that's illegal. And so I'm sure there are standards they're going to have to keep up in Europe just because the different laws in Europe than there are in the States. How they're going to make that work, I don't know. I'm not a top tech executive, which is why I'm here instead of there. Right. One of the reasons.
But there is a difference, and we've talked many times here about the protection of private data and the drive to protect private data coming from the European Union, definitely not coming from the United States, and the European Union setting the standard globally for that.
And the Americans do not like that, especially the Trump team really don't like that. So, in D.C., not long before the election, I went to an event with one of the people who was in the running to be Trump's national security advisor, who didn't end up, getting the job, but who was talking about, some of the actions that have come from the European Union against U.S. tech companies. And he was talking about the European Union's imposition of a significant fine on Apple for having underpaid taxes in Ireland, where it has a major corporate base, where its critics say, well, that base is in Ireland because there's a low tax regime there, and it's just a way to minimize its tax bill. And they got whacked with a post-dated tax bill of 10+ billion euros. I forget the exact figure. And this was described by this person from Trump world as stealing from an American company. And that this is going to have to stop, saying that the Europeans, if they want us to still guarantee their security, they're going to have to stop stealing from our companies.
This is the transaction Trump was talking about.
So, and I think, so that's going to be, the Europeans are going to be watching very closely for what happens in the Trump administration with respect to tech platforms, because obviously, the whole... the ground feels like it's shifting under the transatlantic relationship.
Well, it's been a relationship based on shared values. That's what we've heard all of our lives, but that doesn't really have a lot of currency in Donald Trump's world, does it?
We're talking about tech, so that's an easy... Data privacy, for example, is not really a shared value in the European understanding, in the understanding of the tech leaders that we're seeing, right? They want to, Apple has things where the FBI can't get into your phone, so they want to protect the user data, but on a kind of broader scale, they're completely against all of these regulations. And, one of the stories with the division, why the tech companies left the Democrats and endorsed Trump is because the Democrats got pretty strict with regulation and tried to follow some of the European moves and get, a little heavier hitting with tech regulation in the last term. And the tech CEOs, weren't happy about that. And they saw the Democrats as being anti-tech, anti-innovation, and too much like the Europeans in that sense.
And which then became an opportunity for the MAGA movement to bring them in. Where does that leave the Democrats, though? Because the Democrats, in our lifetime, we've seen the Democrats go from being the voice for the working man in America. They've lost that support. And under Bill Clinton, they were accused of becoming the party of the upper class, well-educated, and now in Silicon Valley, and now they're losing that as well, as you just described. So the Democratic Party kind of looks like it's in complete disarray now.
Well, I think, the positive side for the Democratic Party would be, this is a moment for it to have a real kind of rethink about where does it want to position itself. And this is really just beginning. And you'll start to see positioning for, the next presidential election. There are midterm elections coming fairly soon. But when we were just talking about gerontocracy earlier, the fact that Chuck Schumer is still the leader of the Democrats in the Senate suggests that, it's not yet kind of all change. But I think that debate, they haven't really, obviously, they have not yet quite found the really sweeping answer to this populist nationalism of Donald Trump. But I think it's not just the US Democrats, it's also in Europe. You see, the center-left generally has not really quite found any response that has the emotional kind of heft of this kind of my country first kind of idea.
And that resonates with young voters, perhaps not so much in the U.S., but it is sizable in the U.S. But here in Germany, for example, the young voters, they vote for the AfD.
Not in a majority, but the AfD is more popular among younger voters than it is in older cohorts, according to some recent figures. And this has really been a big surprise to a lot of observers who thought, they think, okay, young people, Greta Thunberg, well, it's not all like that, there are young people also who think, their values align more with something like that.
I think there's also, it's partly the values thing, and, maybe there are more sort of conservative or, young people who are attracted to the nationalist narratives that the AFD and other right-wing parties have than the kind of typical narrative is, where young people are all idealistic and left-wing. But I think the other part of it is just this disruption.
There's Melania coming in.
Yeah.
Check out the hat. I mean, at Jimmy Carter's funeral, everyone was talking about the collar that she had.
Yeah.
Now it's the hat that's going to attract lots of attention. Yeah, there she comes. She's about to enter the rotunda.
So we're getting closer to the main event.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they're running almost about half an hour behind schedule.
It's going to make it difficult to meet that 47-minute mark that they wanted.
That's right. They wanted supposedly to do the swearing in at 47 minutes past the hour. Because,
local time, yeah. What is it, 11:47 a.m., right?
Because Trump is going to be the 47th president.
Yeah, I don't think they're going to make that, unless they change
Hopefully they don't delay it an entire hour so that they can still hit the 47 of the next hour.
Yeah, that's...
That'll be difficult. But what I was saying is, I think this kind of frustration, right? There is a sizable part of the Trump voters who are just want to change, right? They just think this isn't working. We need something. Let's shake it up a bit, maybe even break it a bit. And I think that's also something that you see in younger voters. I mean, they've experienced chaos for most of their lives, unlike, people who are 40 plus. And so they just think this political system isn't working.
That's right. Okay.
And I think, I mean, if we're doing some comparisons between the US and Europe, it's quite interesting that the US is kind of further, if you see this as a political cycle, it's kind of further along that than Europe, that frustration has kind of boiled over at this moment.
We're gonna listen in for just a second.
Yeah.
True to thee, I will be. Oh, America, no weeping. Let there be no wounded heart. I will keep you in my keeping till there'll be.
There's Joaquin Jeffries right there, speaking of the next generation.
Yeah.
Of the
So
Democrats.
I mean, that generational shift had already happened in the House. Yeah. So with him taking over.
There's the president and the vice president. See, he was saying something to her. If we could only hear.
From your mountains grand and all through this land, you are beautiful to me. Oh, America, you're calling.
And I will admit, there's J.D. Vance, yeah.
You are calling me to pay to thee, to thee. Oh, I will be. And we will be as one.
Unfortunately, I wish I knew who this gentleman is who's singing, because if he's not listening to the program, maybe if someone's watching in chat, they could let us know.
Ah, there you go, yeah.
You know? Okay, there's Amy Klobuchar with Mr. Johnson, the Speaker of the House.
And Chuck Schumer ahead of them.
Yeah.
Yep.
The
So Mike
Honorable
Jo-
Jackie Barber, the Clerk of the House of Representatives, the Honorable Kevin F. McCumber, Mr. John Bessler, Mrs. Kelly Johnson, Mrs. Iris Weinshaw Schumer, and Mrs. Jennifer Scalise.
Okay, there is the president-elect. He does not have a, he doesn't look like he's very happy at this moment.
Well, that's his look. He's not a big smiler. But if I saw correctly, his
that's-
tie is purple
I mean,
as opposed to red. So that's a sign of wanting to combine the red and the blue,
yeah,
perhaps.
yeah. That's a very good observation, Rachel, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Okay, Barron greets his mother.
Yes. Yeah, we see where he gets his
Yeah,
height from,
yeah.
yes.
Although it's true, we're a pretty tall guy.
Elon Musk also pretty tall. You can
he's
see
very
that.
tall, yeah. He's doing a little bit of yoga right now.
They've probably been standing around a long time.
Yeah. I think it's time now for the president-elect.
They all know not to lock their knees. A marching band lesson.
Yeah.
So just to,
Yes, go
the
ahead.
order will be with the vice president.
The vice president will be
of all.
first, correct.
Ladies and gentlemen, escorting the President of the United States and the Vice President of the United States, ranking member of the Joint Congressional Committee on Inaugural Ceremonies, the Honorable Deb Fischer, House Democratic Leader, the Honorable Hakeem Jeffries, and Senate Majority Secretary, the Honorable Robert Duncan. Ladies and gentlemen, the President of the United States, the Honorable Joseph R. Biden Jr., and Vice President of the United States, the Honorable Kamala Devi Harris.
And you can't help wondering what's going through
I
their
know,
heads
I
as well.
know. I know.
The scope for bitterness between those two people is
Yeah.
pretty huge.
I saw the video that the White House released this morning, a goodbye video basically coming from the Oval Office, also touting what they've achieved. And my first thought when I watched it was, why didn't we see this during Kamala Harris's campaign, or even his campaign before he left the campaign? But we didn't.
Ladies and gentlemen, escorting the Vice President-elect, the Executive Director for the Joint Congressional Committee on Inaugural Ceremonies, Mr. Michael Wagner, Senate Deputy Sergeant-at-Arms and Doorkeeper, Jason Bell, and House Deputy Sergeant-at-Arms, Mr. Sean Keating. Ladies and gentlemen, the Vice President-elect of the United States, the Honorable J.D. Vance.
Okay, this is a double jeopardy question worth 800. What do JD stand for, the two letters JD? No cheating here, Richard.
Remember, but I can cheat.
I hope it's not Jefferson Davis.
James David. James David. There we go.
James David.
But he likes his. But it's a real nickname where he spells it without dots. You know? So
So it is. So he considers it a name. Then yes.
Okay.
Effectively, he's taken it as his name.
You know, we had a couple of weeks ago, after Jimmy Carter's funeral, we had at the end of the program today, we looked at the body language of the former president sitting there and what it revealed about them. And I'm thinking that maybe we're going to have to do the same thing tomorrow for what we're seeing here today.
You can see, by the way, that's Usha Vance. That's his
wife.
Just behind, And Sundar Pichai and Donald Trump Jr.
Yes.
Let's see, J.D. Vance and Donald Trump Jr. have the red tie, blue jacket uniform on.
That's right.
Ladies and gentlemen, escorting the President-elect, the Staff Director for the Joint Congressional Committee on Inaugural Ceremonies, Elizabeth Farah, House Sergeant-at-Arms, the Honorable William P. McFarland, Senate Sergeant-at-Arms and Doorkeeper, the Honorable Jennifer A. Hemingway, Senate Majority Leader, the Honorable John Thune, and the Joint Congressional Committee on Inaugural Ceremonies, House Democratic Leader, the Honorable Hakeem Jeffries, House Majority Leader, the Honorable Steve Scalise, Speaker of the House of Representatives, the Honorable Mike Johnson, Senate Democratic Leader, the Honorable Charles E. Schumer, Ranking Member of the Joint Congressional Committee on Inaugural Ceremonies, the Honorable Deb Fischer, and Chairwoman of the Joint Congressional Committee on Inaugural Ceremonies, the Honorable Amy Klobuchar. Ladies and gentlemen, the President-elect of the United States, the Honorable Donald John Trump.
The hat makes it difficult.
That's why she wore the hat. You couldn't reach her.
You should definitely wear that if she goes to France.
Yeah. You can see Donald Trump in Barron's face, though, when Barron smiles. There he looks just like his father.
Yeah, for anyone from outside the U.S., this chant of USA, USA is something that often happens at Republican rallies.
Ladies and gentlemen, please be seated.
Are they looking at their smartphones? Is that what?
Good question. Maybe there's a program? I'm guessing J.D. Vance.
Please welcome the Chairwoman of the Joint Congressional Committee on Inaugural Ceremonies, the Honorable Amy Klobuchar.
Good morning,
She
everyone.
ran for president. I wanted to
Welcome
Yes.
to
Yeah.
the 60th presidential inauguration. Today, President-elect Trump and Vice President-elect Vance will take their oaths of office, and we will witness the peaceful transfer of power at the heart of our democracy.
A subtle or not so subtle mention
Yeah.
again.
For the past year, I've chaired the inaugural ceremony committee, which includes the leadership of Congress from both parties. We thank the committee and Capitol staff and law enforcement who worked so hard over the last year, and especially the last 3 days. You've done a beautiful job, and you have shown grace under pressure. Our theme this year is our enduring democracy. The presence of so many presidents and vice presidents here today is truly a testament to that endurance. We welcome President Biden and Dr. Biden. We welcome Vice President Harris and Doug Emhoff, President Obama, President Clinton and Secretary Clinton, President Bush and Laura Bush, Vice President Pence, Vice President Quayle and Marilyn Quayle. The justices of the United States Supreme Court are with us, all 9 of them I counted, and of course the Trump and Vance families. This ceremony marks what will soon be 250 years of our democracy. It is the moment when leaders, elevated by the will of the people, promise to be faithful to our Constitution, to cherish and defend it. It is the moment when they become, as we all should be, the guardians of our country. Through war and peace, through adversity and prosperity, we hold this inauguration every 4 years, and today it falls on Martin Luther King Day. A further reminder that we must strive to uphold the values enshrined in our Constitution, the freedoms, the liberties, and, as is inscribed on the entrance of the United States Supreme Court, equal justice under law. But what makes this moment more than a passing ceremony is all who are watching it across the country, the people of this nation, the ordinary people doing extraordinary things. President Kennedy, who at one point worked as a senator in this building and would often walk through this very rotunda, once said, "In a democracy, every citizen, regardless of interest in politics, holds office. Every one of us is in a position of responsibility." With that responsibility of citizenship comes an obligation not to seek out malice, as President Lincoln once reminded us, but to view others with a generosity of spirit despite our differences. With that responsibility of leadership comes an obligation to stand our ground when we must and find common ground when we can. With everything swirling around us, the hot mess of division, it is on all of us, to quote an incredible songwriter who just happened to be born in my state, to ensure that our nation's democracy is our shelter from the storm. There's a reason this ceremony takes place at the Capitol. In other countries, it might be in a presidential palace or a gilded executive office building. Here it is traditionally held at the Capitol, the People's House. It is a fitting reminder of the system of checks and balances that is the very foundation of our government, 3 equal branches of government. That is how, for nearly 250 years, our great American experiment, grounded in the rule of law, has endured. So, as we inaugurate a new president and vice president, let us remember that the power of those in this room comes from the people. the construction workers who build our country, the teachers and healthcare workers who nurture us, the troops defending our freedoms, and yes, the firefighters in Los Angeles putting themselves on the line for us. Our democracy's strength and grit must match theirs. May God bless our nation. Thank you.
Good afternoon. Endurance through the years is the ultimate test. To persevere through time is the truest measure of an idea, an institution, and a nation. Our founders wrote the Constitution so that America could withstand all the twists and turns of time. They wrote it to guide us and to preserve forever our right of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. But as much as the truths and principles enshrined in our Constitution remain the same, our democracy promises the people the power to change, to chart their own destiny. That's the beauty. That is the importance of democracy. It allows the endurance, the permanence of a nation through change. It allows nations like our United States both to avoid the obstacles and to seize the opportunities God has placed before us, all while staying true to our founding principles. Today is our country's 60th inauguration ceremony. Like all the others before it, it is a celebration of our right to set our uniquely American course. The past several years have been trying at times for many, many Americans, and also for the nations of the free world that we humbly strive to lead. In November, Americans chose again to steer this nation towards greatness, the secure, safe, and prosperous future that our founders envisioned for all of us. And today, we celebrate not only their decision to do so, but also the simple right and wisdom of a free people to make their own choice so that their nation might endure. And now, allow me to welcome Archbishop Timothy Dolan and Reverend Franklin Graham, who will deliver our invocation. Please rise.
Be still and know that I am God, supreme among the nations, supreme on the earth. Let us pray. Remembering General George Washington on his knees at Valley Forge, recalling Abraham Lincoln at his second inaugural, with malice toward none, with charity for all, with firmness in the right as God gives us to see the right. Remembering General George Patton's instructions to his soldiers as they began the Battle of the Bulge 8 decades ago: pray. Pray when fighting, pray alone, pray with others, pray by night, pray by day. Observing the birthday of the Reverend Martin Luther King, who warned, without God, our efforts turn to ashes. We, blessed citizens of this one nation under God, humbled by our claim that in God we trust, gather indeed this inauguration day to pray for our President Donald J. Trump, his family, his advisors, his cabinet, his aspirations, his vice president, for the Lord's blessings upon Joseph Biden, for our men and women in uniform, for each other whose hopes are stoked this new year, this inauguration day. We cannot err in relying upon that prayer from the Bible, upon which our president will soon place his hand in oath, as we make our own the supplications of King Solomon for wisdom as he began his governance. God of our fathers, in your wisdom you set man to govern your creatures, to govern in holiness and justice, to render justice with integrity. Give our leader wisdom, for he is your servant, aware of his own weakness and brevity of life. If wisdom which comes not from you be not with him, he shall be held in no esteem. Send wisdom from heavens that she may be with him, that he may know your designs. Please, God, bless America. Please, mend her every flaw. You are the God in whom we trust, who lives and reigns forever and ever. Amen.
Mr. President, the last 4 years, there are times I'm sure you thought it was pretty dark. But look what God has done. We praise him and give him glory. Let us pray. Our Father and our God, thou hast said, blessed is the nation whose God is the Lord. As the prophet Daniel prayed, blessed be the name of God forever and ever. For wisdom and might are his. He changes the times and the seasons. He removes kings. He raises up kings. He gives wisdom to the wise and knowledge to those who have understanding. Our Father, today, as President Donald J. Trump takes the oath of office once again, we come to say thank you, O Lord our God. Father, when Donald Trump's enemies thought he was down and out, you and you alone saved his life and raised him up with strength and power by your mighty hand. We pray for President Trump that you'll watch over, protect, guide, direct him. Give him your wisdom from your throne on high. We ask that you would bless him and that our nation would be blessed through him. We also ask that you would bless and protect Melania as First Lady. We thank you for the beauty, the warmth, and grace that she shows not only to this nation, but to the whole world. We thank you for Vice President-elect J.D. Vance and his wife Usha and their young family. May he be a strength to President Trump, to stand beside him, to hold up his arms like Aaron held up the arms of Moses in the midst of battle. The prophet Samuel reminded the people, it was you that brought them up from the land of Egypt. And he said, now stand still that I may reason with you before the Lord. So Father, we take this moment to stand still, to remember the great things that you have done for this nation. Thank you for the protection, the bounty, the freedoms that we so enjoy. We remember to keep our eyes fixed on you, and may our hearts be inclined to your voice. We know that America can never be great again if we turn our backs on you. We ask for your help, and we pray all of this in the name of the King of Kings, the Lord of Lords, your Son, my Savior, and our Redeemer, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Associate Justice Kavanaugh to administer the Vice Presidential Oath of Office.
Please raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, James David Vance, do solemnly swear.
I, James David Vance, do solemnly swear
that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States
that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States
against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
that I will bear true faith
that I will bear true faith
and allegiance to the same,
and allegiance to the same,
that I take this obligation freely
that I take this obligation freely
without any mental reservation
without any mental reservation
or purpose of evasion,
and
that I will well and faithfully discharge
and that I will well and faithfully discharge
the duties of the office
on which
I am about to enter. So help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations, Mr. Vice President.
Please welcome Chief Justice Roberts to administer the presidential oath of office.
Please raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, Donald John Trump, do solemnly swear.
I, Donald John Trump, do solemnly swear
that I will faithfully execute the office of President of the United States
the office of President of the United States
and will, to the best of my ability, preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution of the United States. So help me God. Congratulations, Mr. President.
Okay, if you're joining us now, this is DW's special coverage of the inauguration of President Donald Trump. The president just taking the oath of office, and we now have the 47th president of the United States, Donald Trump. And they were a little behind schedule. I want to let our viewers know we're a little bit behind schedule with this, but I think they changed the rundown a little bit so that they could stay around the noon hour there in Washington, D.C. And we were commenting that President Trump has a very solemn look on his face today.
Yeah, but I think that's not out of the ordinary. I mean, he wants to project, the
power and authority.
And that's part of his brand. And I think Rachel said earlier, it's not always, you don't often see him laughing. It's not so much. He's kind of...
He doesn't do the sort of American smiley thing. He really doesn't smile much.
He's funny in his speeches. He entertains people, certainly.
This is the U.S. Naval Academy Glee Club right here.
Oh, okay.
But it did seem that... was it me, or did some of the family members seem not quite ready for it? So, they started doing the oath of office, and some of Trump's children quickly sort of shuffled behind him. So maybe they were slightly taken by surprise by the change in the running order.
Yeah. Carrie Underwood was supposed to perform, but maybe that they could still happen though.
Yeah.
And President Trump's inaugural address is, according to the program, is supposed to happen after the Naval Academy finishes with this, the Battle Hymn of the Republic.
Okay. Perhaps I'll have Carrie Underwood do a sort of closing song.
Yeah.
That sense of, partial generational shift really on show with J.D. Vance, yeah?
Totally,
With
totally,
his,
yes. Definitely.
His wife,
With their baby.
holding one of his children up during the oath.
And do we know where Trump plans to travel? Because the president, it's always watched very closely which country the new president travels to. Do we know where President Trump is going to travel to?
This is something I haven't heard. I mean, we've heard a lot about the executive orders. We've heard a lot about the border. I haven't heard, but that doesn't mean that they don't already know.
I mean, certainly there's been speculation that, he supposedly wants to have a visit to China at some point. But if that would be his first visit, of course, that would be quite a statement.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I was just double checking. What was his first foreign trip last time?
Mm-hmm.
Can you remember? Saudi Arabia.
Oh,
yes, that's right. Remember, we covered there was this evening with the swords, the dance.
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. No, there was some pretty iconic images coming
There were,
from that.
yeah.
Well, it's also a bold choice for the first visit, so.
Maybe placing a bet on Israel wouldn't be completely
I was thinking
crazy.
about that. I mean, it's running on the ticker below, right? The hostages are being exchanged. It is a big achievement that Donald Trump is partially also claiming, and Biden has said, the Trump administration or Trump himself was also helpful.
Yeah.
So that might make sense. And you have a lot of close Israel allies in the Trump administration.
Mm-hmm.
So it could be a kind of celebration, peacemaker, and first visit at the same time.
That is the new ambassador to Greece. You just saw. She used to be on Fox News, and she was for a while. We saw her a lot on Trump events. She was Don Trump Jr.'s girlfriend for a long time.
Oh, right, yes.
But she's been appointed the new ambassador to Greece. Okay, I think now is the first address by the new president.
I mean, one does have to say for Trump supporters that he lost election, that he had a moment of
my honor and pleasure
infamy, and
introduce
then
you
to win
the
solidly.
45th
It's been quite
and
a curve.
the 47th President of the United States of America, Donald J. Trump.
There we go. Bit of a smile.
Thank you very much, everybody. Well, thank you very, very much. Vice President Vance, Speaker Johnson, Senator Thune, Chief Justice Roberts, Justices of the United States Supreme Court, President Clinton, President Bush, President Obama, President Biden, Vice President Harris, and my fellow citizens. The golden age of America begins right now. From this day forward, our country will flourish and be respected again all over the world. We will be the envy of every nation, and we will not allow ourselves to be taken advantage of any longer. During every single day of the Trump administration, I will very simply put America first. Our sovereignty will be reclaimed. Our safety will be restored. The scales of justice will be rebalanced. The vicious, violent, and unfair weaponization of the Justice Department and our government will end. And our top priority will be to create a nation that is proud, prosperous, and free. America will soon be greater, stronger, and far more exceptional than ever before. I return to the presidency confident and optimistic that we are at the start of a thrilling new era of national success. A tide of change is sweeping the country, sunlight is pouring over the entire world, and America has the chance to seize this opportunity like never before. But first, we must be honest about the challenges we face. While they are plentiful, they will be annihilated by this great momentum that the world is now witnessing in the United States of America. As we gather today, our government confronts a crisis of trust. For many years, a radical and corrupt establishment has extracted power and wealth from our citizens while the pillars of our society lay broken and seemingly in complete disrepair. We now have a government that cannot manage even a simple crisis at home, while at the same time stumbling into a continuing catalog of catastrophic events abroad. It fails to protect our magnificent, law-abiding American citizens, but provides sanctuary and protection for dangerous criminals, many from prisons and mental institutions that have illegally entered our country from all over the world. We have a government that has given unlimited funding to the defense of foreign borders, but refuses to defend American borders or, more importantly, its own people. Our country can no longer deliver services in times of emergency, as recently shown by the wonderful people of North Carolina, been treated so badly. And other states who are still suffering from a hurricane that took place many months ago. Or more recently, Los Angeles, where we're watching fires still tragically burn. From weeks ago, without even a token of defense, they're raging through the houses and communities, even affecting some of the wealthiest and most powerful individuals in our country, some of whom are sitting here right now. They don't have a home any longer. That's interesting. But we can't let this happen. Everyone is unable to do anything about it. That's going to change. We have a public health system that does not deliver in times of disaster, yet more money is spent on it than any country anywhere in the world. And we have an education system that teaches our children to be ashamed of themselves in many cases, to hate our country despite the love that we try so desperately to provide to them. All of this will change starting today, and it will change very quickly. My recent election is a mandate to completely and totally reverse a horrible betrayal and all of these many betrayals that have taken place, and to give the people back their faith, their wealth, their democracy, and indeed their freedom. From this moment on, America's decline is over. Our liberties and our nation's glorious destiny will no longer be denied, and we will immediately restore the integrity, competency, and loyalty of America's government. Over the past 8 years, I have been tested and challenged more than any president in our 250-year history, and I've learned a lot along the way. The journey to reclaim our republic has not been an easy one, that I can tell you. Those who wish to stop our cause have tried to take my freedom and indeed to take my life. Just a few months ago in a beautiful Pennsylvania field, an assassin's bullet ripped through my ear. But I felt then, and believe even more so now, that my life was saved for a reason. I was saved by God to make America great again. Thank you very much. That is why each day under our administration of American patriots, we will be working to meet every crisis with dignity and power and strength. We will move with purpose and speed to bring back hope, prosperity, safety, and peace for citizens of every race, religion, color, and creed. For American citizens, January 20th, 2025 is Liberation Day. It is my hope that our recent presidential election will be remembered as the greatest and most consequential election in the history of our country. As our victory showed, the entire nation is rapidly unifying behind our agenda with dramatic increases in support from virtually every element of our society, young and old, men and women, African Americans, Hispanic Americans, Asian Americans, urban, suburban, rural. And very importantly, we had a powerful win in all 7 swing states. And the popular vote, we won by millions of people. To the Black and Hispanic communities, I want to thank you for the tremendous outpouring of love and trust that you have shown me with your vote. We set records, and I will not forget it. I've heard your voices in the campaign, and I look forward to working with you in the years to come. Today is Martin Luther King Day, and his honor, this will be a great honor, but in his honor, we will strive together to make his dream a reality. We will make his dream come true. Thank you. Thank you. National unity is now returning to America, and confidence and pride is soaring like never before. In everything we do, my administration will be inspired by a strong pursuit of excellence and unrelenting success. We will not forget our country. We will not forget our Constitution, and we will not forget our God. Can't do that. Today, I will sign a series of historic executive orders. With these actions, we will begin the complete restoration of America and the revolution of common sense. It's all about common sense. First, I will declare a national emergency at our southern border. All illegal entry will immediately be halted, and we will begin the process of returning millions and millions of criminal aliens back to the places from which they came. We will reinstate my Remain in Mexico policy. I will end the practice of catch and release. And I will send troops to the southern border to repel the disastrous invasion of our country. Under the orders I signed today, we will also be designating the cartels as foreign terrorist organizations. And by invoking the Alien Enemies Act of 1798, I will direct our government to use the full and immense power of federal and state law enforcement to eliminate the presence of all foreign gangs and criminal networks, bringing devastating crime to U.S. soil, including our cities and inner cities. As Commander-in-Chief, I have no higher responsibility than to defend our country from threats and invasions, and that is exactly what I am going to do. We will do it at a level that nobody's ever seen before. Next, I will direct all members of my cabinet to marshal the vast powers at their disposal to defeat what was record inflation and rapidly bring down costs and prices. The inflation crisis was caused by massive overspending and escalating energy prices, and that is why today I will also declare a national energy emergency. We will drill, baby, drill. America will be a manufacturing nation once again, and we have something that no other manufacturing nation will ever have, the largest amount of oil and gas of any country on earth, and we are going to use it. Let me use it. We will bring prices down, fill our strategic reserves up again, right to the top, and export American energy all over the world. We will be a rich nation again, and it is that liquid gold under our feet that will help to do it. With my actions today, we will end the Green New Deal, and we will revoke the electric vehicle mandate, saving our auto industry and keeping my sacred pledge to our great American auto workers. In other words, you'll be able to buy the car of your choice. We will build automobiles in America again at a rate that nobody could have dreamt possible just a few years ago. And thank you to the auto workers of our nation for your inspiring vote of confidence. We did tremendously with their vote. I will immediately begin the overhaul of our trade system to protect American workers and families. Instead of taxing our citizens to enrich other countries, we will tariff and tax foreign countries to enrich our citizens. For this purpose, we are establishing the External Revenue Service to collect all tariffs, duties, and revenues. It will be massive amounts of money pouring into our treasury, coming from foreign sources. The American dream will soon be back and thriving like never before to restore competence and effectiveness to our federal government. My administration will establish the brand new Department of Government Efficiency. After years and years of illegal and unconstitutional federal efforts to restrict free expression, I will also sign an executive order to immediately stop all government censorship and bring back free speech to America. Never again will the immense power of the state be weaponized to persecute political opponents, something I know something about. We will not allow that to happen. It will not happen again. Under my leadership, we will restore fair, equal, and impartial justice under the constitutional rule of law. And we are going to bring law and order back to our cities. This week, I will also end the government policy of trying to socially engineer race and gender into every aspect of public and private life. We will forge a society that is colorblind and merit-based. As of today, it will henceforth be the official policy of the United States government that there are only two genders, male and female. This week, I will reinstate any service members who were unjustly expelled from our military for objecting to the COVID vaccine mandate with full back pay. And I will sign an order to stop our warriors from being subjected to radical political theories and social experiments while on duty. It's going to end immediately. Our armed forces will be freed to focus on their sole mission, defeating America's enemies. Like in 2017, we will again build the strongest military the world has ever seen. We will measure our success not only by the battles we win, but also by the wars that we end, and perhaps most importantly, the wars we never get into. My proudest legacy will be that of a peacemaker and unifier. That's what I want to be, a peacemaker and a unifier. I'm pleased to say that as of yesterday, one day before I assumed office, the hostages in the Middle East are coming back home to their families. Thank you. America will reclaim its rightful place as the greatest, most powerful, most respected nation on earth, inspiring the awe and admiration of the entire world. A short time from now, we are going to be changing the name of the Gulf of Mexico to the Gulf of America, and we will restore the name of a great president, William McKinley, to Mount McKinley, where it should be and where it belongs. President McKinley made our country very rich through tariffs and through talent. He was a natural businessman and gave Teddy Roosevelt the money for many of the great things he did, including the Panama Canal, which has foolishly been given to the country of Panama after the United States. The United States, I mean, think of this, spent more money than ever spent on a project before and lost 38,000 lives in the building of the Panama Canal. We have been treated very badly from this foolish gift that should have never been made, and Panama's promise to us has been broken. The purpose of our deal and the spirit of our treaty has been totally violated. American ships are being severely overcharged and not treated fairly in any way, shape, or form, and that includes the United States Navy. And above all, China is operating the Panama Canal, and we didn't give it to China, we gave it to Panama, and we're taking it back. Above all, my message to Americans today is that it is time for us to once again act with courage, vigor, and the vitality of history's greatest civilization. So as we liberate our nation, we will lead it to new heights of victory and success. We will not be deterred. Together we will end the chronic disease epidemic and keep our children safe, healthy, and disease-free. The United States will once again consider itself a growing nation, one that increases our wealth, expands our territory, builds our cities, raises our expectations, and carries our flag into new and beautiful horizons. And we will pursue our manifest destiny into the stars, launching American astronauts to plant the stars and stripes on the planet Mars. Ambition is the lifeblood of a great nation, and right now our nation is more ambitious than any other. There's no nation like our nation. Americans are explorers, builders, innovators, entrepreneurs, and pioneers. The spirit of the frontier is written into our hearts. The call of the next great adventure resounds from within our souls. Our American ancestors turned a small group of colonies on the edge of a vast continent into a mighty republic of the most extraordinary citizens on earth. No one comes close. Americans pushed thousands of miles through a rugged land of untamed wilderness. They crossed deserts, scaled mountains, braved untold dangers, won the Wild West, ended slavery, rescued millions from tyranny, lifted billions from poverty, harnessed electricity, split the atom, launched mankind into the heavens, and put the universe of human knowledge into the palm of the human hand. If we work together, there is nothing we cannot do and no dream we cannot achieve. Many people thought it was impossible for me to stage such a historic political comeback. But as you see today, here I am. The American people have spoken. I stand before you now as proof that you should never believe that something is impossible to do. In America, the impossible is what we do best. From New York to Los Angeles, from Philadelphia to Phoenix, from Chicago to Miami, from Houston to right here in Washington, D.C., our country was forged and built by the generations of patriots who gave everything they had for our rights and for our freedom. They were farmers and soldiers, cowboys and factory workers, steel workers and coal miners, police officers and pioneers who pushed onward, marched forward, and let no obstacle defeat their spirit or their pride. Together they laid down the railroads, raised up the skyscrapers, built great highways, won 2 world wars, defeated fascism and communism, and triumphed over every single challenge that they faced. After all we have been through together, we stand on the verge of the 4 greatest years in American history. With your help, we will restore America, promise, and we will rebuild the nation that we love, and we love it so much. We are one people, one family, and one glorious nation under God. So to every parent who dreams for their child and every child who dreams for their future, I am with you, I will fight for you, and I will win for you. We are going to win like never before. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. In recent years, our nation has suffered greatly, but we are going to bring it back and make it great again, greater than ever before. We will be a nation like no other, full of compassion, courage, and exceptionalism. Our power will stop all wars and bring a new spirit of unity to a world that has been angry, violent, and totally unpredictable. America will be respected again and admired again, including by people of religion, faith, and goodwill. We will be prosperous. We will be proud. We will be strong, and we will win like never before. We will not be conquered. We will not be intimidated. We will not be broken, and we will not fail. From this day on, the United States of America will be a free, sovereign, and independent nation. We will stand bravely. We will live proudly. We will dream boldly, and nothing will stand in our way because we are Americans. The future is ours, and our golden age has just begun. Thank you. God bless America. Thank you all. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, performing America the Beautiful, please welcome the Armed Forces Chorus and Carrie Underwood.
Okay.
Here comes Carrie.
And with that, we have the 47th President of the United States. Donald Trump is now in office. And we're going to dip back in, I think, and we're going to listen, I think, to Carrie Underwood. Okay, we're still waiting for Carrie Underwood to perform. And it seems like there's a technical problem. She's going to sing America the Beautiful, but right now we are trying to find out how long she spoke there. Here we go.
Beautiful for spacious skies, for amber waves of grain, for purple mountain majesties above the fruited plain. America, America, God shed his grace on thee and crown thy good with brotherhood from sea to shining sea.
Okay, and we're back. And so Carrie Underwood, she proved that you don't need a band to sing America the Beautiful.
Ladies and gentlemen, Senator Fisher will now introduce the benediction clergy.
Okay, we're gonna listen to the benediction, then we're gonna come back to you.
Rabbi Ari Berman, Pastor Lorenzo Sewell, and Reverend Frank Mund to provide prayers of benediction.
Let us pray. Almighty God, your prophet Jeremiah walked the streets of Jerusalem and blessed its inhabitants with the Hebrew words, Baruch HaGever Asher Yiftach BaHashem. Blessed is the one who trusts in God. Thousands of years later, this great nation, which adopted these words as its motto, "In God we trust," stands at a moment of historic opportunity. Americans are searching for meaning. Our merciful Father, help us rise to meet this moment. Bless President Donald J. Trump and Vice President J.D. Vance with the strength and courage to choose the right and the good. Unite us around our foundational biblical values of life and liberty, of service and sacrifice, and especially of faith and morality, which George Washington called the indispensable supports of American prosperity. Guide our schools and college campuses, which have been experiencing such unrest, to inspire the next generation, to pair progress with purpose, knowledge with wisdom, and truth with virtue. Hear the cry of the hostages, both American and Israeli, whose pain our president so acutely feels. We are so thankful for the 3 young women who yesterday returned home, and pray that the next 4 years brings peace to Israel and throughout the Middle East. Almighty God, grant all Americans the opportunity to realize our shared dream of a life filled with peace and plenty, health and happiness, compassion and contribution. Stir within us the confidence to rise to this moment. For while we trust in God, God's trust is in us, the American people. America is called to greatness, to be a beacon of light and a mover of history. May our nation merit the fulfillment of Jeremiah's blessing, that like a tree planted by water, we shall not cease to bear fruit. May all of humanity experience your love and your blessing. May it be thy will, and let us say, Amen.
Let us pray for our 47th president. Heavenly Father, we're so grateful that you gave our 45th and now our 47th president a millimeter miracle. We are grateful that you are the one that have called him for such a time as this, that America would begin to dream again. We pray that we would fulfill the true meaning of our creed, that we hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal. We pray that you use our president, that we will live in a nation where we will not be judged by the color of our skin, but by the content of our character. Heavenly Father, in the name of Jesus, we are so grateful today that you will use our 47th president so we would sing with new meaning, my country, 'tis of thee. Sweet land of liberty, of thee I sing. Land where my fathers died, land of the pilgrim's pride, from every mountainside. Let freedom ring, and because America is called to be a great nation, we believe that you will make this come true. So let freedom ring. From the prodigious hilltops of New Hampshire, let freedom ring. From the mighty mountains of New York, let freedom ring. From the heightening Alleghenies of Pennsylvania, let freedom ring. From the snow-capped Rockies of Colorado, let freedom ring. From the curvaceous hilltops of California, but God, we're asking you not only that, let freedom ring from Stone Mountain, Georgia. Let freedom ring from Lookout Mountain of Tennessee. Let freedom ring from every hill and every molehill in Mississippi, from every state, every city, every village, and every hamlet. And when we let freedom ring, we will be able to speed up that day where all of your children, black men and white men, Protestant and Catholic, Jew and Gentile, will be able to sing in the meaning of that old Negro spiritual, free at last, free at last. Thank you, God Almighty. We are free at last. If you believe where the Spirit of the Lord is, there is liberty. Come on, put your hands together and give your great God great glory.
Almighty and eternal God, we gather here today in reverence, joined in our shared hopes and dreams for our beloved nation. In this sacred moment of the inauguration of President Donald J. Trump and Vice President J.D. Vance, we turn our hearts to you, seeking your divine assistance and abundant blessings upon this pivotal moment in history. We come before you with profound gratitude for the many gifts you have bestowed upon our land. Thank you for the freedoms we cherish, for the strength of our communities, and for the resilience of our spirit. As our President and Vice President embrace their newly appointed roles, we humbly implore that your everlasting love and wisdom will envelop them. Grant them the clarity of mind to navigate the challenges that lie ahead, and the compassion to serve all citizens with fairness and integrity. May their hearts be filled with a giving spirit and sincere understanding for those whom they represent. May they be beacons of hope in times of uncertainty and prophetic voices in defending the dignity of all created life. We pray for a spirit of collaboration to flourish in our government and across our nation, fostering an environment where dialogue and heartfelt listening will prevail over division or discord. May each decision made by our President and Vice President reflect the values of justice and peace. As we embark on this new chapter, we also seek your comfort, O God, for those who feel lost or disheartened. In this time of transition, may your light shine upon them, reaffirming their belief in a brighter tomorrow. May we all strive to lift one another, supporting our fellow citizens with kindness and empathy, recognizing that together we can overcome any adversity. Grant us the strength to endure, the courage to face our fears, and the clarity to see the light that remains, even when clouds of uncertainty may gather. Inspire our new leaders to be champions for the vulnerable and advocates for those whose voices are often silenced. May they pursue policies that promote the well-being of all, seeking to build bridges that will foster unity and belonging. As we stand witness to this inauguration, we hold fast to our faith in the goodness of each of us and the possibility of change. We trust that with your guidance, O God, our nation can move forward to a future filled with promise, prosperity, and understanding. And finally, we lift our hearts in gratitude for the beloved parents of President Trump. Without Mary and Fred Trump, this day would never be the miracle that has just begun. From their place in heaven, may they shield their son from all harm by their loving protection, and give him the strength to guide our nation along the path that will make America great again. Let us go forth now with these words of President Trump's emblazoned on our hearts. As long as we have pride in our beliefs, courage in our convictions, and faith in our God, then we will not fail. We stand tall, we stand proud, because we are Americans, and Americans kneel to God, and to God alone. Amen.
Ladies and gentlemen, please remain standing for our national anthem.
Can you say, o'er the dawn's early light, what so proudly we hailed at the twilight
Ladies and gentlemen, please be seated. Ladies and gentlemen, please remain at your seats while the President and official party depart the platform.
Okay, so the ceremony is coming to an end, and we now have the 47th President of the United States, Donald Trump. So, Rachel, let me ask you, what stood out in Trump's inaugural speech?
I mean, it started somewhat optimistic and positive with this, the golden age of America begins now. But then it did turn pretty quickly to a lot of the same themes we saw in his first inauguration speech. But from a sort of foreign policy perspective, trade, he made a lot of clear comments about trade. He said we'll no longer allow ourselves to be taken advantage of. I think he's talking about trade and economic relations there. And they're going to overhaul the trade system to protect American workers and families. He was clear about that.
And he spoke of an external revenue service.
Yes, tariffs and taxes on foreign countries that he said will bring, quote, massive amounts of money coming into the Treasury from foreign sources. So we don't have to tax Americans. We can get it from tariffs and trade on foreign companies. Clear messages on energy, right? Drill, baby, drill, he literally said in the address. He's going to declare an energy emergency. So he's going to massively reduce prices. He also talked about America's energy as a kind of manufacturing advantage, right? That we can boost our manufacturing because we have this inexpensive energy. So that was clear. Let me just
interrupt right there. He said that 8 years ago. I remember. Yes. He promised, particularly to workers in the Rust Belt, but manufacturing workers across the country, he promised to bring those jobs back. That really has not happened.
That really has not happened. I mean, Biden, in many ways, continued similar. I mean, he really continued with a strong emphasis, but he merged it with a climate agenda, and Biden, and that very clearly is getting overturned by Trump. I mean, Trump specifically said that. So there's still this emphasis on, manufacturing. We'll see if Trump manages, better this time around than he did the first time around. He's got more experience. Maybe he's going to put a few different people in place, but it turns out it's also difficult to do these things, right?
You mentioned the environment. He said that he's going to stop the Green Deal and also quotas for electric cars. And he said you'll be able to buy the car that you want, which means one with a combustible engine. What's that going to do here in Germany? Because, in Germany, we've got Volkswagen right now looking at sales that have just dropped. And there's a worry that German automakers have missed the electric car revolution. And here you have a U.S. president saying, I'm not going to let that revolution hurt our auto industry. Will that have a positive knock-on effect here as well?
I mean, the answer to that, Brent, depends on whether you think the transition to electric vehicles is inevitable or not. If it's not, then maybe it helps kind of settling back into combustion engines. But I think there are a lot of signs that transition, it's had some hiccups recently, but it is probably going to happen, maybe over a slightly longer time frame than expected. And it's quite interesting. I mean, obviously, in terms of EVs, I mean, we're kind of getting into details where we probably should be talking big picture here, but just quickly on this detail of EVs. I mean, obviously, within Trump's, right behind him, he's got Elon Musk, who basically created the EV sector the way that we know it right today. So there's not a completely homogenous view there. But I think also in Trump's kind of circles, and particularly the tech circles, they're thinking not just EV, they're thinking autonomous vehicles, and that's actually the direction. And you're not going to get autonomous vehicles with combustion engines. Right. That just doesn't really go together. So I think there's a sense that maybe, Trump wants to, throw a bone to people who think cars are just getting too expensive, EVs are not quite there yet technologically. Don't try to hurry this along. Allow the technology just to take the time that the technology will change, and don't have this legislative kind of oomph behind it that the Biden administration and particularly countries in Europe have tried to do.
Let me ask you too. Since we were on at the same time 8 years ago, when Trump delivered his first inaugural address, and How would you compare the two? I mean, the American carnage, that stands out to many people who remember back then.
Yeah, I mean, that expression was not in there, but I think Rachel's right. There's still, there are two sides to Trump. He's kind of saying, America's a mess, but I'm going to transform it very quickly, and it's almost America's going to flip from one of the darkest moments in its history to one of the greatest moments in its history, and I am the vector through which this happens, And I think that was similar to last time, but I think there is a more positive overall mood now this time, partly because it was a stronger victory electorally. There was this sense of this comeback and vindication and overcoming all of these challenges that we heard, and this sense of almost being blessed by God.
Yes.
That he survived that assassination attempt. That seems such a long time ago, but it was incredible. This assassination attempt happened. That he survived it by this incredible.
I mean, he got a standing ovation when he invoked God and said, or invoked divine will, saying that it was divine will that he survived an assassin's bullet.
I noted that I was saved by God to make America great again. So he has fused his slogan, "Make America Great Again," with the blessing of God, and I mean, no wonder. I mean, if that happened to you, and you were running to be president, I mean, no wonder you would believe that, and I think many of his supporters do. But I think the other sort of thought that I had, and I had many times when I was in the U.S. this autumn for the election, and having been there in 2016 as well, is how consistent Donald Trump's overall political platform is. I mean, it's hardly changed in 8 years. The world has changed, but it's the same. I mean, there were some, differences in emphasis here and there, depending
Panama's
on
new.
Yeah, he wasn't talking so much about Panama then, but he was talking about Greenland. This kind of recipe of make America great again, America first. The slogans are still there. He doesn't even need to change the slogan. And the fact that he and this political idea that he really kind of created, he conjured up, has such long legs is really quite extraordinary.
It is extraordinary. This revolution of common sense. I'll ask both of you, how do you interpret it? And I just want to let our viewers know, if you're just joining us, you're looking at live pictures from inside the U.S. Capitol Rotunda, and the inauguration ceremony for President Trump is now over, and you see there is the who's who of political America there beginning to file out. That, of course, being Hillary Clinton and Bill Clinton,
And George W. Bush.
George W.
Obama,
Bush.
So the former presidents all.
So they're filing out, and as this revolution of common sense begins.
I mean, so there's an anti-elite message in there. He said he had a really strong wording, something about a radical and corrupt elite that's been, ruling against the interests of the American people. So I think this is part of what he thinks of as common sense. He also said, this is important, if I'm a Ukrainian watching this, a government that gives unlimited funding to defense of foreign borders, but refuses to defend our American borders, right? So this is his spin on common sense. And I mean, if that's your version of things, then that does seem like a nonsensical policy, right? Not defend your own borders, but defend other people's borders. So, I think that's a bit of the vibe here. We're going to be able to change things very quickly, and we're going to just do the smart thing. And the reason it hasn't been happening is because the elite is corrupt or doesn't care about you.
And do you think it was a message aimed against the elite, or when he says common sense, is he, because he said we're only going to recognize two genders, DEI is not going to be a policy anymore. We're going to go back to meritocracy. Isn't that what he was speaking of when he said this common sense? Or
it's part of it. That's part of it. I mean, it's the sense of what the policies you think make sense. Those are the only ones that make sense, and all the other ones are just dumb, right? I mean, that's a sort of standard political view. So I think this includes the military. I think this definitely includes DEI and trans rights and things like that came up, or lack of recognition of trans rights, perhaps, that come up in the speech.
Richard?
Yeah, I mean, it calls to mind one of the most effective ads that the Trump campaign had during the election campaign, which was, she's for they, them, I'm for you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And trying to get across trying to sort of frame the Democratic Party as having kind of gone down a rabbit hole of niche identity politics ideas that are kind of counter to, good kind of, old school common sense, and that it's gone too far, and we're going to roll that back. And I think by using an expression like common sense, it really tries to emphasize or tries to remove any sense of an ideological sting behind that it's kind of driven by, antipathy towards minorities or something, or just to say, no, it's not that. It's just that this got all too highfalutin for kind of people.
Mm-hmm.
But obviously, people in the trans community in the US are going to be worried about this. And it is quite interesting. I mean, there's one thing where Trump is not wholly consistent back between 2016 and today, because back in the 2016 campaign, the kind of trans rights were only beginning to kind of peek into the public debate then. And it was a lot of discussion about which bathroom people would go to. Yeah. And he, at least on one occasion during that campaign, he said, I don't care which bathroom people to go to. Mm-hmm. So he actually staked out a pretty, kind of progressive or like chill out kind of position on that. But obviously in the years since then, it's become a very, very highly polarizing, almost the sharpest of the sharp ends of the culture war are right there. And it's interesting because, gay rights, I was also in the US, I was outside the Supreme Court on the day when gay marriage was opened up by the Supreme Court. And that was something where it somehow didn't get quite so sucked into the culture war, partly because the campaign for gay marriage had been run by many campaigners on a fairly conservative kind of basis, saying, marriage is a good conservative institution, and just allow everybody to do that, and you're actually creating more stability in society. And in terms of trans rights, that kind of switch has not kind of that positioning of the debate around trans rights has not been achieved. And it's also created divisions on the left, where kind of like, older school feminists feel that the trans movement has kind of encroached on women's rights. So the whole thing is just a live issue. And by him saying common sense, it's just like, okay, let's just kind of like not go down that rabbit hole.
We want to go now to our Washington Bureau Chief, Ines Pohl. She is standing by. She's outside the U.S. Capitol, not far from what those pictures we're looking at right now, where you're seeing the new U.S. president heading people in the party, I should say, who are going their own ways. And, of course, a lunch is about to take place within the next hour. So let's go to Ines. Ines, you were listening into this speech. I know, like Richard, you've covered these before. What was the big standout moment in your opinion?
I just want to pick up on something Richard and Rachel were just talking about, this common sense issue. For many people here in the United States, and we of course have been traveling this country intensively over the last year, common sense also means that food prices are prioritized, that making or getting good jobs back to the United States are prioritized over the bathroom issue. And that's something which really resonates with many, many Americans here. And that's something which the Democrats kind of lost and didn't kind of put in their message well enough. Many Americans and many who voted for Trump maybe the first time were thinking that he is taking better care of their everyday needs and all these other issues, which of course are important for millions of people here and around the world, don't affect their lives immediately. So I think we have to put this a little bit into perspective when we're talking about what he means or what he wants to kind of address when he talks about common sense. What stood out to me, it's of course also what he didn't talk about. He didn't talk about Ukraine. That's interesting because that was something he campaigned on intensively. He said, I'm gonna end this war in Ukraine on day one. Once I'm in office, and he didn't even mention it because we of course know it's going to be much more complicated than just an executive order. And also what stood out for me from an international perspective, and that feeds a little bit into this topic, is that he really talked very kind of sharply about that he will make other countries pay, and that of course is addressing Germany and other European NATO members that we Germans will have to increase the amount of money we pay for our own defense. I found it also actually nearly funny when he said we will plant stars and stripes on Mars. This of course was a little bit probably a kudo to Elon Musk, who is a close boyfriend, or close friend now to him apparently. But yeah, and then the third thing I think, or the fifth thing, I don't know, it's such a long list here on my phone, that he of course also talked about renaming the Gulf of Mexico to the Gulf of America. That's also something
Ines, I
find
to ask,
kind of, how should I put this? Interesting.
I wanted to ask you, I mean, you're in the States, and I know you've heard people in interviews traveling across the U.S., people will say that they feel like political America has just lost its common sense. Have you heard many people saying that they think the Gulf of Mexico should be renamed?
No, that's just one of his stance, I think. But this fits into his narrative, you know. I'm the king of the world. I can do whatever I want, and I will take America first and will make America as great as it has never been before. I think that's what he wants to do. So this is, of course, just a kind of a self-promotion thing, but it also resonates with people. Does it matter to people? Not really, but that he, the president, the elected president of the people, says that he will take America first, whatever it costs. That does resonate with many people and gives them the feeling, you know, we are worth a lot, and they feel entitled because of that. And that's why he says that. He's very good in addressing topics which maybe don't make a lot of sense, but which just like resonate with many Americans, not only the MAGA people.
Yeah. Ines, before we let you go, the fact that he did not mention Ukraine, the fact that he made it clear that America is going to hold other countries accountable, is going to make them pay, obviously meaning their fair share. What do you think that means for the halls of power here in Berlin and in Brussels? I mean, based from where you're standing, do you think Europe is prepared for this next Trump tsunami?
I think they didn't take the 4 years they had. Europe, Germany, maybe also many other countries. They knew that Trump might come back and that he might be re-elected, and that he will ask to the Europe and Germany, other bigger countries, of course, as well, to not only pay their fair share, but carry the burden by kind of also making soldiers available to protect certain areas. So no, I would not say that Germany is prepared in a way it could be prepared, and the same is true for the European Union. And now they're kind of running out of time. So that's a lot of pressure he put out here today during his first speech as the 47th President of the United States.
All right. Our Washington Bureau Chief Ines Pohl braving the cold force outside of the U.S. Capitol. Ines, as always, thank you very much. And we're going to stay in Washington. Now we're going to go to the Capital One Arena. Our colleague Funny Fichar joins us now. And I'm assuming you're still by that arena, Funny. It's been a minute since we spoke with you. Let me ask you, you've been talking to voters, especially people who wanted to watch the ceremony today. What have they told you about this speech? What do they think?
Well, first of all, it was quite of an incredible atmosphere unfolding here at that very moment when Donald Trump was sworn in as the next president of the United States. You could literally see this, or feel, in fact, this tension that there was before all of this. whether he's going to return to the White House. And the supporters here really burst into spontaneous shouts of USA, USA, and that quote, "We got a president." So you can really sense this sentiment of relief amongst them that finally now, according to their reaction, with Donald Trump returning to the White House, this country is going to enter a new and better era overall. So all of that, what he said today with regard to domestic politics especially, is linked very much to hopes and expectations that the lives are going to improve for Americans here.
And Funny, let me ask you to put your international relations hat on, because our viewers know you do a lot of reporting from here in Europe, particularly from Eastern Europe. You're from Hungary, and we know that Viktor Orban, the Prime Minister, is a friend of Donald Trump. The two men respect each other. What message did Donald Trump send to Europe, to Eastern Europe?
I think overall, what Donald Trump said is something that we have heard him saying already during his campaigning, what we've heard him saying, in fact, yesterday at the pro-Trump rally here at the arena very close to me, and that is that it's not just about the United States, for example, playing a very important role in NATO, for example, but that he will expect to members of NATO to deliver as well. Same comes to Europe. Here the question is, of course, whether he's going to speak to individual leaders of various European countries. You just mentioned Viktor Orban, the Prime Minister of Hungary, or whether he's going to talk to the EU leadership in Brussels. And in fact, this is what is so uncertain, and that it adds to the unpredictability of the policies, both domestic policies and international policies, what is to come with Donald Trump back in the White House. What I find quite interesting, though, when you talk to people here on the ground and when you ask them what is important to you, in fact, the people told me today it's not immigration, which is a cornerstone of domestic politics of Donald Trump, to make sure that there's an aggressive deportation policy in place against undocumented workers. But what they emphasize here over and over again is the economy. They want the inflation to go down. They simply want to have more money in their purse. And they really hope that with Donald Trump as the 47th president, that's going to be put in action, even though if you look at what he also said in his speech, and that is to have tougher tariff policies, you wonder whether actually Donald Trump may have promised too much. We just will have to see, both when it comes to the economy in the US, but also when it comes to forging new relationships internationally and looking at old relationships from his first term.
And I'll ask you, before we let you go, Funny, I'll ask you what we've all been talking about here. What went through your mind when you heard Trump say that this is the beginning of a revolution of common sense?
Well, the question is, I think, if you look back at what he said before this speech, that he wants to have an uplifting and unifying speech overall, right? You do wonder what he said today when it comes to common sense. How do you define that? It really is always a question of perspective who you speak to. So when it comes to the supporters, and the supporters that I've been speaking to, who are really feeling like they are being inaugurated themselves with Donald Trump today, they say whatever they believe in and what Donald Trump believes in is what common sense should be. If you walk just a few blocks from here, you will also meet people who oppose Donald Trump, because there are also various rallies announced in various parts of the United States who are against Donald Trump's policies. They will say that whatever he means by common sense is outrageous and is going to actually bring the United States very much backward, and not for what it stands for after post-World War II and the values that the United States carried afterwards.
Okay. Funny Fichar for us there in Washington, D.C. Funny, good to hear from you. Excellent reporting, and thanks for braving the cold for us. We appreciate it. And here in the studio, Rachel, I understand you have, it's a busy day for you. So I'll go ahead and let you go, but thank you very much for being part of our coverage. It was good to get your input, your insights. Good to have you here at the big table.
Yeah,
come back again.
I will. Thanks for having me.
And you're leaving me here with Richard, so it's me and you, Richard, now. So let's moving forward, Richard, because we've got a little over 7 or 8 minutes. What can we expect tomorrow from this new Trump administration? Because he's already said he's going to declare a state of emergency at the border.
So, I mean, I think over the course of the next few days, we're going to see, you know, there's talk of these executive orders. Not all of these executive orders mean that there's a snap of the fingers and suddenly everything's different. You know, this is actually trying to kick various bureaucracies into action to change certain things. But, yeah, I think we're just going to, I mean, we obviously covered here, and everyone can remember the first, you know, anybody who was following politics during the first term of the Trump administration will remember that it was a pretty wild ride. It's different from other administrations. He is, you know, he's very active on social media. Then it was Twitter. Now it's his own platform. You know, just kind of putting things out there. And we've seen him doing this in kind of particularly stark style in recent weeks, you know, putting out these ideas. We heard him talking about Panama in his speech. We've talked about Greenland, you know, all of these areas where he really wants to apparently sort of shake things up in ways that are hard to predict. But just to quickly connect to what we were talking about, you know, international perspectives on this, you know, how it's going to go down in Europe, for instance. And actually, just for 1 second, we should take a moment. We see the president and the first lady coming down, also the vice president.
It's the first time we've seen them together as well since they took the oath of office.
And there is due to be a signing ceremony where it's possible he's going to be signing already some executive orders. So some of these first, you know, things that we've been talking about.
Yeah, that right there. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, thank you all so much for being here. And was that a hell of a speech or what? That was, man. That was a good way to start it off. You know, I didn't know exactly what the president would put in that speech, and I hoped to myself that he wasn't going to hold back. And, sir, you didn't hold back. That was a hell of a way to start the next 4 years. But I just want to say from the bottom of my heart, and I know I speak for the president and for all of us, thank you, thank you, thank you for making this possible. We love you. We wouldn't be here without you, and we're going to make America great again together for the next 4 years. And the last thing I'll say is, you know, having stood outside for about 5 minutes to wave goodbye to the Bidens, thank God we moved that thing indoors because it was a beautiful ceremony and it was cold as hell outside. So, sir, the 45th and 47th President of the United States, Donald J. Trump.
No, he's right. I said, oh, look at this beautiful sunny day. We blew it. And then I went outside and we were freezing. You would have been very unhappy. The sun was very deceptive, I will tell you. It is cold out. And I'm sort of saying, you know, that was so beautiful today. Maybe they should do it there every 4 years. Does that make sense? I don't know. Because, you know, the outdoor thing is really good, but it gets a little cold around this time of the year, as some people have noticed. And a lot of times they suffer through it. There was no suffering in that room. It was 72 degrees. It was perfect with the best acoustics I think I've ever heard in a room. This is not so bad either. But I just want to say, you're a younger, far more beautiful audience that I just spoke to. And I want to keep it off the record. I want to keep that off the record. Because I don't want to have all those big shots up there. I don't want to think you're more powerful than them, you look better than them, and I love you. Now, we just had a great time. We just had a great day. This was amazing. You know, when you think we took a journey, I mentioned in the speech, a lot of people said that was not a journey that was possible, and it was indeed possible. I didn't really know too much about what they were saying when they said that, but a lot of people felt it, and we hooked up with J.D. very early. I watched J.D. over a period of time. I endorsed him in Ohio. He was a great senator, and very, very smart. The only one smarter than him was his wife. That was, I would have chosen her, but somehow the line of succession didn't work that way, right? But now she's great and he's great. This is a great, beautiful couple and unbelievable career. I just said to him, you are very upwardly mobile, because he hasn't been doing it that long, but he picked it up so quickly. Remember, the first week was a little bit like the fake news was hitting him really hard. And I said, ooh, this may be tough, but after that, it was smooth sailing for him. He took on everybody. He took on the meanest. I don't want to use the word corrupt because we're into a new system, so let's wait till the corruption begins, because it will. But he took on some pretty mean people, and he handled it well. I want to also congratulate Mike Johnson for the job that he's doing. Steve, we gave him a majority of almost nothing, and then I said, to make it tougher on him, let me take 2 or 3 of the people, right? I said, he'll only have to suffer with that for about 3 months. How are they doing, by the way? Are they? Is that moving along?
Totally unified.
I said, do you mind if I take this one, that one, and a couple of others? He didn't mind. He can handle it. No, he's a man that's liked by everybody. I've never met a man like this. You've got how many is it, 219 or 220 or something? 220. And of the 220, 219 really like him. I noticed he got 1 negative vote once about 2 weeks ago. But I think even 220 like him, if you want to know the truth. And that's very unusual. I know a lot of nice guys in Congress, and they have 35 people that hate him. So if you have 35 people that hate you and you only have 1 or 2 or 3 votes, you'll have 5, I think. But that's going to be like, the good news is when we get to that 5 number, it's going to feel like a massive majority. You can be really nasty to a couple of them at least, So it's going to feel like hitting your head on the wall and stopping. It feels so good to stop. But he's done a fantastic job. And Steve Scalise he's our hero because, I was with him. You talk about being shot. I was with him. He got some bad ones, and his incredible wife, and she really loves him. You never know about that. I've been with other people. They were doing poorly, and the wife is like looking at her watch. She can't get out of the hospital fast enough. How's he doing? Oh, I don't know. He's all right. That woman was a mess. She was crying and crying. No, they're going to take him. They're going to take him. I told Steve when he finally woke up, it was a while too. The doctor told me it was the most blood they've ever transfused in any patient. They've never done anything like it. And here he is, the picture of strength, right? And he's been a great friend of mine, right? With a family, because of a family. And what a job you did. It worked out pretty much better than we even thought, right? And I did have a couple of things, to say that were extremely controversial. And between J.D. and Melania and anybody else that heard, please, sir, it's such a beautiful, unifying speech. Please, sir, don't say these things. I said, I'm telling you, it's going to play great. They say, you're right. For this group of people, it's going to play great. You're the only ones I hurt by not, but we had some beauties, didn't we, Melania? She said, sir, calls me sir when she's angry. No, I'm only kidding. I better say I'm only kidding, or the press is going to pick that one up loud and clear. No, but she said, no, I think it would be terrible. It's such a nice speech. I think it's, it all depends on your delivery. How was the delivery? Was it good? But she said it's such a beautiful speech. You can't put things in there that you were going to put in. And I was going to talk about the J6 hostages, but you'll be happy because, it's action, not words that count. And you're going to see a lot of action on the J6 hostages. See a lot of action. And I was going to talk about the things that Joe did today with the pardons of people that were very, very guilty of very bad crimes, like the Unselect Committee of Political Thugs, where they literally, what they did is they destroyed and deleted all of the information, all of the hearings, Practically not a thing left. They deleted all the information on Nancy Pelosi having turned down the offer of 10,000 soldiers. You wouldn't have needed 10,000. You could have had 500, and it would have stopped. Because we may have had 1 million people that day, the people that were there. You don't see any photographs, but we have a lot of great photos. But you don't see those photographs. They don't put them in. They show the people at the Capitol. But I was talking about that. I was going to talk about that. They said, please don't bring that up right now. You can bring it up tomorrow. I said, how about now in front of the I'll bring it up right now. You know, this little time delay is good because we're getting great reviews on the speech. Now watch. They'll take the speech and say, I didn't like it because he left there and he's talked to people. But we're giving you a little more information than we gave upstairs. But no, they pardoned a lot of people. They pardoned, before we even get to today, they pardoned, 33 murderers, absolute murderers, the worst murderers. You know, when you get the death sentence in the United States, you have to be bad because they don't give it much. And he pardoned almost everybody having a death sentence. And if you went through the crimes that were committed, you wouldn't even believe them. The level of violence, the people that were killed, the innocence of people that were killed and children killed by these people. And he pardoned them for whatever reason. He spared them, but they didn't spare the people that they killed. And, you know, who knows what happens in the future. It's one of the worst because a lot of times they let them out early after that. You know, they say you're going to be in for life, but then all of a sudden they get let out for good behavior and then they go on a rampage. You know, it's one of those little things, right? But I was going to talk about that. But I was really going to talk about the level of, you know, what's going on. Why are we doing this? Why are we trying to help a guy like Milley? Why are we doing Milley? He was pardoned. What he said, terrible what he said. Why are we helping some of the people? Why are we helping Liz Cheney? I mean, Liz Cheney is a disaster. She's a crying lunatic and crying Adam Kinzinger. He's a super crying. I never saw the guy not crying. He's always crying. I looked at him. I remember years ago he was actually on my side. And then one day, you know, when you don't want to kill people in wars, they turn against you. Liz Cheney hated the concept of not going to war with everybody. Let's kill everybody. Let's spend a lot of money on military equipment, you know, where her father works, right? And but what she did was incredible. Think of it. They destroyed and deleted all of that information that went on for almost 2 years against Trump. And the reason they did, because it was all false, like the person that said, I tried to strangle a Secret Service agent. That's one of the toughest human beings I think I've ever seen. I actually had a friend saying, please don't change that, sir. You are the coolest sucker in history. Remember, she said, I put my hands around his neck because he wouldn't go to the Capitol. Made up fiction. And I was rebuffed. And the guy on the right is a massive weightlifter, probably stronger than me. Do you think he's stronger than me, honey? You know who I'm talking about. Possibly stronger than me. Slightly younger than me, like, I won't say how many years because I don't want to talk about that, but a lot of years. But I had a friend that said, why are you disputing that story? That's the coolest story I've ever heard. That I would attack a karate champion, get slightly rebuffed, and then throw my arms around a guy with a neck about this big. Even though there are bars, you know, there are bars, you can't really do that anyway. So I wanted to talk about that. But all of that stuff got deleted. And the reason it got deleted is they were all caught in lies. You know, Secret Service testified, and they said it didn't happen. Actually, the two guys were very embarrassed. They're suffering because their friends are saying, did Trump really do that to you? But they gained a whole new respect for me. But it was just make-believe stuff, and there were a lot of make-believe stories made up. So rather than suffer the wrath, like the story with Nancy Pelosi, I offered her 10,000 soldiers. She knows it. She admitted it on tape that her daughter made. She's a videographer or whatever you call her, which I'm glad she is. Oh, she can't be in good stead with Nancy. But Nancy said it was my responsibility as she's leaving the Capitol. She said it was, and it was. She's in charge of security at the Capitol. But I offered them up to 10,000 soldiers, even more. One time I said more, as many as you need. But You needed 400 or 500. If 4 or 5, you 10,000, that would be more than the number of people there by lot. But we offered her 10,000. Think of it, 10,000 soldiers. In other words, J6 wouldn't be J6. There would have been no J6. But she rebuffed them. She didn't like it. No, she didn't like it. Maybe she wanted that to happen. But she's guilty as hell. And now we would have to go through the process because they destroyed all evidence. They deleted everything. There's virtually nothing left. The other fake story and so many other fake stories. And many people came out on our side. And those people now would got to find them. There's nothing left. So that's a criminal offense. If that were a civil case, it would be a criminal offense. If that happened civilly where you did that, it would be a criminal offense. So I decided I'm not going to make this speech complicated. I'm going to make it beautiful. I'm going to make it a unifying speech. And then when they said we have a group of people that are serious Trump fans, I said, this is the time to tell those stories. He knows. So anyway, but seriously, I'd like to, I think it was a tremendous success. I think we're very lucky we put it inside because it is really cold. We just went to the helicopter out of respect, something that's taken place for a long time. I guess it's as old as helicopters. You used to get into a stagecoach, now you get into a helicopter. Times change. But it's pretty old custom. And it's a beautiful custom, actually. It's a beautiful custom. I wish we could have had a better relationship. I wish we could have had a better relationship between Republicans and Democrats. I was with Senator Schumer. I said, Chuck, I think it's time we all start getting along a little bit because it doesn't make sense. I mean, we literally never get a Democrat vote. They never get a Republican vote, almost. And although there is a bill coming up very shortly that we have a lot of Democrat votes, right? That's going to be a very beautiful bill. We're going to have a deciding, I would say, within a week or so, I think. And it's going to be a very good bill. You all know what I'm talking about. So I just want to thank you all for being here. You have been our fans from day one. Look at all these people all over. You've been our fans. This has been there's never been anything like it. There's never been anything like it. This has been a movement like no movement ever in history for probably any country, let alone this country. You know, if somebody's running for president, and if they go out and they announce they're going to Arizona, they're going to Nevada, they're going to someplace, if you have 200 or 300 people, that would be standard. Ronald Reagan would go out. I mean, outside of the last couple of days where people get a little excited, but even then you have a couple of thousand people. But if you're going to go someplace, any place, any one of the swing states, any one of the other states, I mean, how about the non-swing states? We won Alabama by 48 points. We won Tennessee by massive numbers. Wyoming, we won by numbers that are, nobody's ever seen numbers like that. And, you know, places like California, we did great, but when they send out like 38 million ballots, nobody knows where the hell they're sending them, and then they come pouring back, the whole thing. You know, they passed a law in California that if you work in an election bureau and if you so much as ask for a voter ID, if you say, sir, ma'am, could I please look at your voter ID? They have the right to put you in jail. You're a criminal. Can you believe that? There's only one reason that happens. They want to cheat. So they had it where voter ID wasn't accepted. But now if you even ask for it, this is seriously a bill that was just signed, passed in their legislature, and it was signed. And I think when we get things cleaned up and we get back to a little bit of normalcy, I'm going to ask the Speaker to really get involved because I think we would have won the state of California because, you know, if you look at my numbers with Hispanic, we're at 56%. And we were winning, we won the Texas border that had never been won, as the governor said. He's doing a good job, the governor, by the way, of Texas. But as the governor said, it hasn't, oh, did I get lucky? Did I get lucky? Supposing I said, you know, he's not here, but the governor of Texas has done a terrible job. Wow, look at you.
You mean we couldn't get you up in the front row? I tell you. Supposing I said, J.D., the governor of Texas, he's not doing his job. You heard what I said? See, I didn't know you were there. I said he's doing a great job. He's doing a phenomenal job. But now you're going to have a partner that's going to work with you because you didn't have, not only didn't he have a partner, he had people selling the wall, right? We have a fence structure that we worked on, the governor worked on with me. And I didn't love it, to be honest with you. I wanted a nice precast concrete, 40, 50 feet high, like a beautiful, could have been a T-shape, Y-shape. I love construction. I wanted that sucker to go up maybe 50, 60 feet. It would have looked beautiful, a nice Y shape. And they said, the problem is, sir, they climbed that like a rabbit. I said, what do you mean? No way. And they brought some of these guys out. They climbed it like... And the other thing is you hit it with acid and the thing will disintegrate. They have things for concrete. So they needed very hardened steel, very special steel. And then they needed 7,000-pound concrete inside that steel, inside that steel. And then they have a rebar that's the toughest steel made. Very hard to cut. So this is why very little is cut. I mean, it's right. And then they put a anti-climb panel on top. I hated it. I said, it's so unattractive. And I said, why would that work? I don't believe it works. And I went to watch the Border Patrol, gave a display. We had actually 2 sets of climbers. The guys that climb up walls with drugs on their back, I mean, they got like 60, 70 pounds of drug, and they go as fast as you can walk. They go bip, bip, bip. Or we have Mount Everest-type climbers. And honestly, the drug guys were much better. I couldn't believe it. The drug guys blew them away, right? But it's true, the anti-climb panel, they couldn't get around it. They just couldn't. You didn't have it. So sometimes you sacrifice beauty for efficiency. And we did. So we built this wall, and we built over 500 miles of wall. That's why we had such good numbers. The famous chart that came down, very thankfully, the chart that came down on my right, Governor, had I not looked over there, I'm not speaking right now. You might be speaking here. You want to know the truth? You, JD, and we've got a lot of great people in this party, but I got very lucky, but we had the best numbers we've ever had. But I bought, what happens is when you fill it up, it's like water. You fill it up. Now we have 571 miles of wall. And they would always say, when we renovated a wall, so there'd be like a piece of plywood sitting there for 60 years, or a 2x4 sitting for 60 years on the ground and rotting. Because, and they'll say, you didn't build a new wall. Here we're building 50 feet up in the air, 30 feet sections, 50-foot sections, all steel, all concrete, all everything. And all, by the way, they don't even want me to say this, but what the hell, doesn't take that long time. They're all wired for all of the equipment. We put wires in everything so they can easily wire for all the different types of equipment. And if there's a doubt, we have a wire. Whenever we just look, you just find the wires all over the place up top, so we can just hook it up. We don't have to have wires on the outside, which wouldn't do too well, right? So anyway, so we built an extra 200 miles of wall, and the governor wanted to buy it. He tried to buy it, and they wouldn't sell it to him. He wanted to put it up himself. Could have been done in 3 to 4 weeks, 200 more miles, because when you do it, now they just keep going further out, further out, further out, getting around. So we did an extra 200 miles, and it was all bought. And they announced that they're not going to put it up. And that's when I realized they wanted open borders, and that's when I realized that people are going to come pouring through the wall like nobody's ever seen before. But you've seen it. A lot of you are here because of that. I made it my #1 issue. They all said inflation was the #1 issue. I said I disagree. I think people coming into our country from prisons and from mental institutions is a bigger issue for the people that I know. And I made it my #1. I talked about inflation too, but how many times can you say that an apple has doubled in cost? I'd say it, and I'd hit it hard, but then I go back to the fact that we don't want criminals coming into our country. We don't want the jails of every country in the world virtually being deposited into the United States. And that man had to suffer with it. And he did an unbelievable job. I'll tell you, he was a very popular governor, but now he's like an unbeatable governor because of your border policies. He was fantastic. And he really was. So. Governor Abbott, He's a great man, a great leader, and but it did make him more. Did you do it? You didn't do that for politics. You did it because you wanted to do the right thing. But I'll tell you, it sure as hell worked for politics too. It's self-preservation. That's right. But yeah, because the people are demanding it. The people of Texas are demanding it. The people are demanding it all over. So anyway, we built it, and they wouldn't let us use it. They wouldn't let the governor use it, and other governors, they wouldn't let him use it. But he was the leader of the pack and did a great job. And then we heard about a month ago that not only wouldn't they let us use it, they were selling it. They were going to sell it for 5 cents on the dollar. Now, 5 cents on the dollar then, but today it would cost more than twice as much to build because we bought it like 6 years ago. And it was just sitting on the ground, and that does not do well for the whole thing. But it was just sitting on the ground, and I heard about it, and I called the governor, and I called a lot of people, your attorney general. And here's the story. They were going to buy it, and these are great business people. They were going to buy it for 5 cents on the dollar or less, and they were calling us up, we'll sell it to you for 200 cents on the dollar. In other words, it will cost you twice as much, so it's 200 cents on the dollar. I said, can somebody explain that to a judge? I mean, how corrupt is that? You'd think they'd say, maybe we'll sell it to you for 20 cents, 30 cents, but not 200 cents. So they were going to buy something for 5 cents, and they were going to sell it to us for a fortune. They were going to make they'd have it down in Fortune magazine, they'd put it of the deal of the year, okay? You buy something like that. But it was so corrupt and so horrible. And when we told that to the administration, they didn't care. They just kept going forward. They couldn't care less. And they kept going forward. They knew that they were trying to sell it back to us. They would have sold it back to us. You would have ended up buying it. You would have paid probably 50, 60 cents, who knows. But they were going to use it for scrap metal, but then they made a much better deal. They could just buy it and sell it to us for 15, 20 times.
Okay, if you're just joining us, we are listening to President Trump. The new President Trump just took the oath of office several minutes ago. He is still inside the U.S. Capitol. We're expecting the signing ceremony to take place at any moment now. He's speaking right now to his supporters who followed him after the inauguration ceremony. Here in the studio with me is our international editor, Richard Walker. We've been watching this historic day, Richard, and now it's time for the president to get down to business, and he's already talked about the executive orders that he signed.
Yeah, so we're expecting from him either right now or also at least in the next few days a series of executive orders, some of them, dealing with some of his kind of signature priorities like the border, so declaring an emergency on the border, which enables him to take significant action to try to tighten up security on the border. This is something that was incidentally, which he had announced in his first term, was then taken away by Biden and now is going to get reimposed. We're expecting action on energy, on drilling, on all sorts of things. But I think maybe for anyone who's been watching the last half an hour, it's quite interesting. We've been sitting here thinking, he's about to, he's about to sign any moment. And then, of course, this is Donald Trump, and he has and we're witnessing kind of what he talked himself about in the last campaign as being the weave, this kind of meandering style of speaking, which is, it looks like he doesn't even have a speech before him. I mean, usually, he's famous for drifting away from the text of a speech. Well, it looks like maybe he doesn't even have a speech in front of him this time. He's just speaking, and he's certainly blowing up the schedule that we have in front of us, because I think he was supposed to be here for about 5 minutes before signing.
Almost an hour ago, yeah.
And I think his speech, his weave here is probably pretty much as long now as the actual inaugural address. And it's obvious he feels at home in front of these supporters.
And
you just see, I mean, he's funny, he's conversational, he's chatty, and he kind of drifts here, drifts there, but he does always kind of come back to the thread and come back to the point. And, I mean, this was discussed a lot in the election campaign. The Democrats were trying to say, he's going senile, trying to kind of turn some of the attention that had been on Biden onto Trump for being, old, and saying that his speeches were getting longer and more meandering. But this is just his style. And I think this is one of the things that has really earned him the support that he's gained during his life in politics. That people feel he speaks to us like a normal human being, and not somebody doing some rhetorical speech which has all of this kind of rhetorical devices in it, but it's nothing like what a normal person would say to you. You know?
That's true. That's true. And you really do get the impression too that here he lets his guard down.
Yeah.
And he's even in this speech here, he's been talking about the things that he did not include in his inaugural speech. Mainly, the one that stuck out to me was that he didn't say much about the January 6th people who've been convicted, the J6 hostages is what he calls them. He said he wanted to mention that, but he was told not to.
And of course, by doing that, he knows the camera, so he knows the world is watching, but he creates this feeling of intimacy in the audience that he's speaking to. He came down and he kind of joked at the beginning, "Oh, this audience is much younger and much better looking than the audience in the rotunda where I just made the inaugural address." So, I mean, you're getting a glimpse of his personality here. But you also, I mean, I was, for instance, we mentioned it earlier, this address that he gave in Butler, Pennsylvania, not the one where he was shot, but the time when he returned there.
Right.
I mean, he just spoke for a very long time, and it was getting cold, and people were beginning to leave because they'd been there all day. And you do realize that people are they love it, but also they're a little bit like, oh, this is dragging on a bit, once or twice studying the faces of J.D. Vance and Mike Johnson, I did slightly wonder if they were just sort of wishing, oh, come on, let's get to the signing,
Yeah, I mean, it is. I mean, they are running behind schedule, and I guess that they are thinking, well, he's president again, he's speaking, we'll let him have his time. But you can sense that they're ready for the signing ceremony to take place. Now, and when that's over, of course, there is a luncheon that takes place,
but that's off camera.
That's off camera, and usually all of the former presidents and their wives usually attend. But this year, the former presidents will not be in attendance. So it will it'll just be the new president, the new vice president, and their entourages.
I mean, I guess in a way that's their response to Trump not even showing up to the last inauguration.
Yeah, it's a very good point to make.
One thing I wanted to bring up, Brent, before, because we're going to wrap up soon, but there's been a first kind of responses or kind of congratulations, stuff like that coming online suitably on X, on Elon Musk's platform. And we were just talking earlier with Rachel about how Europeans are kind of, they're bracing for this because they know that, Trump has been very critical on NATO member states, seeing them as free riders, and really wanting to, at the very least, push them to spend more on defense, which every president in recent decades has pushed for.
That's true.
But they haven't pushed as hard as Donald Trump. And I just want to read this post by Mark Rutte on
Head of
X.
NATO.
So Mark Rutte is the new Secretary General of NATO, just recently arrived into the position. Somebody who's seen as somebody who is very conscious of Trump's agenda and understands the need to not kind of complain about it, but just engage with it. With President Trump, I'm reading his post now, with President Trump back in office, we will turbocharge defense spending and production. My warm congratulations to Donald Trump. I mean, of course, Donald Trump can hold that up straight away and just say, well, look,
they love me.
Well, maybe they don't love me, but they respect me, they know what I want, and they're going to deliver. From Olaf Scholz here in Germany, the Chancellor, more cautious, certainly. He's somebody he's centre-left. He's been pretty critical of Trump in the past. This is much more cautious. Today, President Donald Trump takes office. Congratulations. The US is our closest ally, and the aim of our policy is always a good transatlantic relationship. And then he says the EU with 27 members and more than 400 million people is a strong union. Anyway, a little bit, I mean, that's pretty bland. But take a look at, let's go to Narendra Modi, So the Prime Minister of India, his foreign minister was in the audience during the inauguration ceremony. He was sitting right at the front, so we only got glimpses of him sometimes. He was not behind Trump, but in front of him. And for instance, he took part in the standing ovation when Donald Trump said that, I was saved by God to make America great again.
That's right.
Narendra Modi has said, "Congratulations, my dear friend, President real Donald Trump, on your historic inauguration. I look forward to working closely with you." Narendra Modi is somebody who's had a very good relationship with Donald Trump in the past. India is certainly one of the countries that they're not feeling any of those concerns that the Europeans feel. They're pretty enthusiastic about Trump coming in.
Richard, we are at the end of our special coverage, almost at the end. I want to thank you here for being in the studio with me, though. It's good talking with you. Excellent analysis, and we're keeping the tradition going. It's good to have you here. Thank you. All right, we want to remind you now of what we've been doing here with our special coverage. The main story on this very historic day: Donald Trump has been sworn in as the 47th President of the United States. The ceremony was held indoors under the rotunda of the Capitol because of freezing weather.
I, Donald John Trump, do solemnly swear
that I will faithfully execute the office of President of the United States
the office of President of the United States
and will, to the best of my ability, preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution of the United States. So help me God. Congratulations, Mr. President.
Trump also signed dozens of executive orders. In his inauguration speech, Trump declared what he called America's decline is over. He vowed to deport millions of undocumented migrants, to expand energy drilling, to defeat inflation, and reverse measures aimed at boosting electric vehicle production. And the now former President Joe Biden and his wife Jill, they have left the U.S. Capitol, marking the end of the Biden administration's 4-year term. In his last hours in office, Biden issued pardons for several family members and a number of those who investigated the storming of the Capitol on January 6, 2021. And you've been watching our special coverage on this historic day, the inauguration of Donald Trump as the 47th President of the United States. I'll be back in about 90 minutes with more world news, followed by the day with special coverage. It continues of the inauguration of Donald Trump as U.S. President. Thanks for joining us.
Typical colors, typical patterns. The brand AfriSocks from Ghana brings African culture to your feet.
I wanted to give something to the African living in the West, something to connect back to their culture.
Hipster socks from Ghana, a stylish fashion statement. AfriMax. Next on DW.
मेरे गले लगे मिला मेरा मुंह चूमा मेरे गले लगा मेरा मुंह चूमा वहाँ माँ मिल के बस चला गया.
Her son wanted to flee Pakistan for Europe. Since then, there has been no trace of Ali. Many other refugees share the same fate. Global Us. In 30 minutes on DW. Living Planet, DW Podcasts.
How to make greener choices in your everyday lives.
I honestly try to be vegan.
Working 32 hours a week could be better for the environment than 40.
But of course, we shouldn't be naive either.
Living Planet. Just hit subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts.
What's it like to come out when you're married? Breakups, gender, and identity. How does our mental health impact our love lives? How do we approach money within our relationships?
It is one of the few sources an Indian person can listen to content about sexuality and sexual matters.
I'm Lisa Mangaldas, and I'm going to be exploring all this and more in a new season of my podcast, Love Matters.
Available on all podcast platforms.
This is where it all began, the cradle of humankind, a UNESCO heritage site just outside of Johannesburg where the earliest humans once stood. Welcome to Farmhouse 58, a health retreat and organic farm where one can get in touch with their roots. But first, we discover how Huzaif Al-Hassan from Ghana is producing African-inspired socks for feet around the world. Take an adventure through Nigeria's lively city of Lagos to find out the 5 must-do things while visiting. Then meet 2 Kenyan artists turning old jerry cans into popular puppetry. I am Pamela Mtanga, and you're watching AfriMax. Golda Schulz is a South African soprano known for her wide range of musical styles from contemporary to classical pieces. She has gained recognition for her performances and quite literally giving South African female singers a strong voice.
This is the voice of South African soprano Golda Schulz. She's singing the lead in the opera Les Dialogues de Carmelite in East Sussex, about 100 kilometres south of London. She's a rising star of the opera world, but it's been a struggle for her to get this far.
The assumption is from many people is that we don't have any connection to the music, but what's fundamental about music is that it's a universal language, the same way that mathematics is a universal language.
Here she's rehearsing at the Glyndebourne Festival. It'll be Golda Schulz's 3rd appearance on this stage. The French opera Dialogues de Carmelite by Francis Poulenc deals with the events of the French Revolution in 1794. It tells a tale of courageous women who refuse to renounce their faith, even when faced with execution. Golda spends her breaks in the Opera House's garden. She's dedicated to her career, but won't deny some things need reform. Many librettos, for example, are several hundred years old and nearly all written by men.
These are men who lived centuries before I was born. So the question then becomes, who really should be performing music of people that none of us are actually connected to in the end?
Golda was born in 1983 in Cape Town, the daughter of a nurse and a mathematician. She grew up in South Africa and began singing in various choirs. Nowadays, Golda sings on all the major opera stages. At New York City's Metropolitan Opera, for example, where she interpreted Pamina in Mozart's Magic Flute. Golda envisions a more female opera world, where more women from Africa, Asia and Latin America take the stage.
One of the main things that I try to push for as a classical musician and as a woman of color, I want representation to matter. Seeing people who look like you or look different from you, but having similar experiences to you, opens up anybody's realm of imagination. And when people's realms of imagination are opened up, that means that change is possible. And if change is possible, equality is possible. Diversity is key.
Golda Schulz is one of the best soprano voices of her generation and a strong voice for the cause of women.
That is music to my ears. Farmhouse 58 provides an opportunity to embrace nature and engage with sustainable farming practices, all while fostering a unique connection to the ancestral land. I'm now joined by General Operations Manager Sharon Clausen to tell us a bit more about this tranquil space. Sharon, thank you for joining us.
Only a pleasure, Pam.
Tell us a bit more about what happens here.
We are first and foremost here for the community and just providing them a platform to meet and connect with people. Our second initiative is the Running with Tom, which is an initiative for young boys in the community.
How does the organic farming practices benefit the local community?
So what we've done is we've identified that that is a need where people have a hectare or less to farm on and are able to grow amazing produce but can't sell it. And so the community-supported agriculture and the pack house itself gives a platform for growers in the area to bring all of their produce to be able to get that to markets and bring an income back home.
That is such an incredible initiative. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much, Pam. It's been a pleasure.
African designs to your feet. Let's have a look at how Huzaif Al-Hassan has made it so that Africans from all over the world can express their identity and culture in their everyday lives through socks.
These funky socks got listed by the New York Magazine as one of the most stylish in the world, and there is no mistaking where they come from Ghana, West Africa.
I wanted to give something to the African living in the West, something to connect back to their culture. They could be able to express their fashion through socks.
Huzaif was born and raised in Nima, which is renowned as one of the largest Zongo communities, owing to its significant influx of migrants and rapid, uncontrolled development. It was in a nearby cafe within this densely populated, economically disadvantaged residential area with about 80,000 residents that Huzaif first began crafting his unique patterns.
The challenges that we encountered when we started the production was the colors of the African patterns, and as well as the zigzag and the way the patterns is designed on the African fabric is so complex to put it on a socks, because the socks we do is a woven socks. It's not printed. So it was really difficult for us, and that was one of the biggest challenge. We had to do a lot of samples first before we were able to find a suitable one in Turkey. My socks have funny names because we wanted to use something that is funny, not just in Ghana, in West Africa. So we give those names so that the customer base, which is the African diaspora in the West, when they are buying the socks, it also gives them something to laugh about. So we have a socks we call Dumso. Dumso used to be a time where Ghana had power outages. So the light goes off and on for like 6 hours, and it comes on for another 6 hours. So Ghanaians will say Dumso, which means off and on. We also have another socks called Boga. Boga actually means every successful Ghanaian who has lived in abroad and they are returning back home, the name they give them is Boga.
Ghana has a long tradition in textile manufacturing. In recent decades, however, the industry has come under pressure from cheap imports from China, among other things. Job losses are still ongoing. By founding a company selling socks within African motifs, Huzaif Al-Hassan started bringing hope for Ghana's textile industry.
Yes, this is gonna bring a good impact for Black Friday. It took us a lot of time to be able to find the right sample. We first went to China, the sample was not good, and Turkey, it was not good. And then we were able to still find a suitable factory in Turkey that is able to manufacture the socks for us.
No socks factory exists in Ghana. Many people rely on imported socks from the West, China and India. Huzaif and partners are working to create Ghana's first socks factory, which will also benefit West Africa.
Because at the moment we are not currently manufacturing in Ghana, we want our customers to be happy and to see that their socks are coming from Ghana and that they are helping the Ghanaian community and creating jobs. So if the product moves to a fulfillment center, it will be after we are locally manufacturing the socks, and then we are proudly made in Africa, which will reduce the shipping cost for us as much as other logistics challenges.
We've seen that this is a loophole, not having this manufacturing company in the whole sub-region. And as young people coming together, we want to help seal that gap and then solve that problem. And not only that, but also provide jobs for young women, young men who are looking for something to do. For me, as a woman and as a manufacturer, looking at numbers, the economy as well can also be changed. It's a major factor for me. And so we are so excited to have us do this together. And so we are really looking forward to starting this new journey.
Before a socks is produced, what we do is we actually sit down, we think about a cloth, an African fabric that looks cool and nice and will fit on a sock. Then we sit with a designer and then we create an impression on how we want the fabric to look on a sock. We usually have 3 reviews, then we make changes, then we review it again. Upon the final review, we send it to our manufacturer, who is based in Turkey, to produce the socks.
Huzaif's team added a new socks collection and is doing a photo shoot for their online store. They've sold over 100,000 socks in 75 countries, making them a major Ghanaian e-commerce business, allowing people from around the world and all walks of life to put their best Afri-Socks foot forward.
So the promotional video with the pallbearers was the best video of our life because we thought we were just going to do a normal advertisement that we always do. And then luckily we got viral. Somebody posted us on Reddit and we sold like more than 6 months of our sales in a day, which was insane because we had a lot of orders. My business partner had to run to Turkey to go and help them to pack socks from there. It was great. That's how we were able to raise the money to buy the 2 sock machine, which we are looking to start for the factory.
Giving Ghana's textile industry a new life with hipster socks is truly a statement that rocks.
What better way to brighten your day or your feet for that matter? Now, pause, calm, and balance from the outside in. Standing with me right now is the activities facilitator, Lesego Mapeka, who is also an advocate for getting back in touch with your roots. Lesego, tell me a bit more about regenerative wellness and what practices contribute to it.
How I would love to term it is a safe space to connect with yourself, connect with others, and to connect with nature, and making sure that the space between your ears is a safe space to sit at.
What other wellness activities do you offer here?
We have breath work, which is very popular. We do hiking, we do yoga, we do qigong. Other than that, we've got the normal massage therapy situation, foot rubs, and we are soon to have like Wim Hof breathwork practices where we use actually the waterfall and this cold water to do those type of experiences. Yeah.
You know what? Now we have to continue to explore this beauty.
Let's rock and roll.
Lagos, Nigeria's vibrant metropolis, pulses with energy, where you can experience a variety and a kaleidoscope of activities. Let's meet Bibi Raysan Amodu, who will be taking us through this beautiful and dynamic megacity.
This is not London Bridge. This is not the Amazon rainforest. This is not Hawaii. This is Lagos.
Lagos is the economic heart of Nigeria and one of the fastest growing cities in Africa. Everything in Lagos is huge, especially the traffic jams. But did you know that in the center of the city, you can explore wildlife?
You can be sure to spot a monkey. Now they steal your food, so I am definitely not looking forward to seeing any wildlife. I'm literally about to walk on one of the longest canopy walks in all of Africa. From the top, you can get amazing, unobstructed, 360-degree views of the city. But I can't do it alone. Joining me is my tour guide, Moya. Come on, Moya, let's go. Let's go.
The Lekki Conservation Center was built as a reserve sanctuary for the rich flora and fauna within the Lekki axis. It is home to the longest canopy walkway in Africa.
And the center is definitely a breath of fresh air in the midst of the hustling and bustling city that is Lagos, especially with its crazy traffic too. Here, there's something for everybody. With its canopy walk, boardwalk, and tree houses, it's ready for families and team buildings as well. If you are a seeker of adventure, this place is for you. Let's go to the next spot. So here I am walking alongside the beautiful beach that is Landmark Beach right here in Lagos. Landmark Beach is located on the beautiful shoreline of the Atlantic Ocean. Now, a lot of people come here for its numerous activities like volleyball. Okay, guys, to win, we have to come together. You take the left, you take the right, I'll be in the middle. In the middle of a hot day, you need something refreshing to cool you down. Hello. Hi. One coconut, please. Thank you. Cheers. Get set. Let's go.
Landmark Beach is definitely a bucket list place to visit for every tourist in the city of Lagos, or if you're looking at spending a day at the beach with family and friend.
I am here at a local Nigerian spot that a lot of locals come to for an amazing dish called amala. It's none other than amala sky. Let's go.
Amala is made from yam or cassava flour, or sometimes unripe plantain flour. It's a traditional Nigerian dish served with ewedu, which is a classic Yoruba soup and often considered as swallow, which is starchy food or grains such as eba, pounded yam, or fufu.
It already smells amazing, but you know what? I'll be the judge of that.
Nigeria, being such a diverse country with various ethnic groups, the country offers a plethora of food. From the world-famous jollof rice to banga soup and many more mouth-watering dishes.
I love sharing fun facts with you guys. Here's a funny one about eating in Nigeria. No matter how full you are never, and I mean never, too full to finish your meat. Well, that was a delicious meal. I don't chop belly full. What better way to sit back and relax and digest your food than to engage the mind while painting?
The culture of learning the art of painting has become a trendy activity in Lagos. Those that offered the activity focus on the fun and relaxation associated with the art and creativity.
Hello. Hi, so nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. Welcome to Sarah Art Hub.
Thank you so much. So what are we going to be doing today?
Okay, the moment you step in here, you're already an artist.
I'm an BB Basquiat, see?
So just embrace the energy of the artist and let it show forth. So you can have your seat and
thank you.
Bring out the Picasso in you.
I told you already, BB Basquiat.
Yes, BB Basquiat.
Now we don't know what's gonna come of this, but you know what? It's never too late to give it a go. Let's paint.
This must be one of the best ways to unwind. Art is therapeutic.
Whoa! Nah, I'm kidding. Wow, I have thoroughly enjoyed today. You've already seen all the things that I've gotten done in just one day. You can imagine how much more there is to do and see right here in Lagos. I've even got the souvenirs to show it. Anyway, it's about that time that I show you what the sunset looks like in my city. Let's go.
Lagos is known for its vibrant nightlife, and people love to party on this side of the equator. There are a number of bars, beachside bars, pubs, and nightclubs where one can enjoy a variety of music whilst having a drink.
What better way to end the day than to sit back, relax, and enjoy a cocktail as you watch the sunset? Lagos City never dulls, and there's always something to do, whether it's the daytime or the nighttime. Cheers. It's been so much fun showing you my beautiful city of Lagos. Until next time, catch you guys on the flip side. Bye.
Lagos looks like so much fun. Kimbuyu and Jerrycan have become viral sensations. The comedy duo from Kenya upcycles discarded jerrycans and turns them into memorable characters that everyone can enjoy online.
Here we have our president, Mr. Ruto Zakayo. This is Grand P, small guy wa Ghana. This is Commander, Pastor Nganga.
Most people think of broken jerrycans as trash. But one comedy collective in Nairobi, Kenya, sees them as unusual treasure.
We are doing this to save the environment, making art through recycling.
Meet Kimbuyu and Jerrycan, two comedians that have become a viral sensation in Kenya by putting a new spin on upcycling.
The reason we hide our faces is...
The reason we hide our faces is because Kimbuyu and Jerrycan is not about us. I wish everyone could understand that the whole world has plastics, and if they can wear the mask and go to collect the plastics, nobody will know whether it's them or not. Rather, they'll have played a part in conserving the environment.
From
the very beginning, I love recycling things. So the environment part came first. And then I realized the jerrycans could become faces of people. Then the comedy aspect came to support the conservation part.
But bado hiyo story ya conservation sisi tumeachana nayo.
Recent estimates put the trash generated in Kenya at between 3,000 to 4,000 tons per day. Because plastic contains major pollutants, plastic waste in particular causes major harm to the environment. A study by the International Union for Conservation of Nature reported that over 73% of plastic waste in Kenya's landfills was uncollected.
The main reason of finding creativity in recycling the jerrycan is because this type of plastic is available in every home in the world. But this jerrycan takes 500 years before it decomposes. I said to myself, I want my future generation to live in a better environment. And the only thing that I can do is to recycle my jerrycans that I use in the house every day and make something constructive out of it.
And the only thing mimi naweza fanya ni kusave vibuyu zangu zenye mimi hutumia kwa nyumba. Maybe tukimaliza na mafuta, tunachukua hiyo kibuyu. Tunaona, tunaifanyia kitu. And
later, my partner in this, Jerrycan, told me that to put whatever we had made on TikTok. And day 2, we were at 100,000 followers. It was amazing.
Kila kibuyu inakaa mtu.
Every jerrycan resembles a human being, or maybe you are all created in the form of jerrycans. Then, I decided I could come up with the face of one person. But mainly, all this was because of environmental conservation.
Mkifaniaji, ushakula?
Sisi tushatula.
Jerrycan na Kiswahili ni kibuyu.
A jerrycan in Swahili language is known as kibuyu, but in slang language, the man of the house is known as mbuyu. And now I felt Kimbuyu was a good name, so we called one of us Kim, then Mbuyu. So it became Kimbuyu. And then my partner said that his wife is called Njeri. Because now the other name of Kimbuyu is Jerrycan, that's how we named the other character, Jerrycan, and it was amazing.
So hapo ndio ikakam Jerrycan, and ilikuwa amazing.
Zira, she looks like she's about to start acting, but must be trained.
Shut up, when you hear her.
Kimbuyu and Jerrycan don't just deal with trash. They use their particular brand of satire to address issues that affect the lives of ordinary Kenyans, such as the rising cost of living.
For us, we do all the stories, yeah?
For us, we address all stories affecting the normal Kenyan. For example, right now, the cost of living is very high, and even if it's through comedy, we address to the Kenyans whatever is happening with even our government in Kenya.
Yeah, we do all the stories. The
process of creating the comedy. Most of our fans know that we use our celebrities as it is more relatable with them. I usually go online to see what's trending and the characters involved, then we automatically work on it. There isn't too much planning involved.
Then tunafloat, hainaga anything ati imepangwa sana.
Ideally, when you look at people's faces, there aren't that many. We have a dog face, we have a cat face. So what I do, I check the jerrycans that resembles the face of the character I want to imitate. I do a bit of touch-ups, I add some accessories to make it more realistic. Then also create their specific character, how they behave.
Lazima pia msia kuna character fulani. Fulani hapa ndani kakushikilia.
Negative comment about Kimbuyu and Jerrycan?
I've never heard or seen negative comments about Kimbuyu and Jerrycan. I think you have taken that part of entertaining our audience because people out here are very depressed.
Wase wengi huku nje bana wako depressed. If we can find a better way, easier way.
If we could find a better way of recycling things, we will be able to have a proper chain of conservation.
Tunanielewa, like I'm doing this, alafu naipeleka pale, ina grow, hivyo, unaona.
Nowadays, I don't see this as jerrycans. I see them as humans. So adopt one, be creative, and help us conserve the environment for the future generations.
Satiric comedy isn't only about making people laugh. It draws people's attentions to issues that affect society and by doing so inspires change. Kimbuyu and Jerrycan, through their unique brand of satire, are helping Kenyans find solutions that aren't political but practical.
That's what you are now. Maisha yako sasa ni kusafa tu. You're just a sufferer.
Enough is enough. Wachana na mimi.
From the beautiful and historic cradle of humankind, we hope you enjoyed today's show. Remember to check us out on dw.com/Afrimax for more. Until next time.
मेरे गले लगे मिला मेरा मुंह चूमा मेरे गले लगा मेरा मुंह चूमा वहाँ माँ मिल के बस चला गया.
Her son wanted to flee Pakistan for Europe. Since then, there has been no trace of Ali. Many other refugees share the same fate. Global Us. Next on DW. India's holy city of death, Varanasi. A holy place, almost older than humanity itself. Hindus come here to find salvation. Life and death, and the eternal cycle of rebirth. In 2 hours on DW. DW Travel.
Hello there.
Let's go. The sights, the history, the food.
Very good.
Garnished with insider tips and local highlights.
Wow. Welcome. Let's go. Shall we go that way? Let's go that way.
But also when it comes to sustainability, information and trends, on DW Travel, you can have it all.
This is unexpected. Okay, I have to check this out.
So, you're planning a trip? Make sure you miss nothing about it on DW Travel.
I hope you enjoyed the trip here as much as I did.
What about you? What's your opinion? Feel free to write your thoughts in the comments.
She survived the Holocaust. Eva Umlauf was in Auschwitz as a 2-year-old girl. It was only much later that she dared to confront her ordeal, a life overshadowed by trauma. What made her embark on that journey? I Survived Auschwitz. Starts January 24th on DW.
For the love of God, I beg you to find my son, wherever he is. My son is lost.
Missing migrants. The families in Pakistan desperate to find relatives. Mercy Mission, combating the risk of HIV in some of South Africa's most deprived neighbourhoods. And Joy All the Way, the bus in Brazil that brings happiness to the far corners of the land. Crises and poverty are driving ever more people to leave their homes. During the last UN tally in 2024, over 122 million people were forcibly displaced worldwide. Behind such statistics are often devastating personal stories. Last year, 2,600 people died or went missing trying to cross the Mediterranean and the Atlantic.
Ruxana Bibi and her husband Imtiaz Arain are trying to find out what happened to their eldest son, Ali. Their younger son, Hamza, is helping them.
We're worried. Did you find out anything? Still nothing. No news? But you keep on telling us that we'll receive some information. Please tell us when we can expect to hear news about him. You've really received no information at all? Not about anyone?
Ali was aboard an overcrowded fishing trawler. The ship sank off the coast of Greece in 2023. Over 300 Pakistani refugees died in this one tragedy alone. The International Rescue Committee has estimated a total of around 600 victims. To this day, Ali's family has received no news of his fate.
Ali was healthy and strong. He was as brave as a lion. He didn't want to leave, but the agent persuaded him. He promised Ali the world and told my son he'd be in Italy in 12 days.
That was over a year and a half ago now, but his family refuses to give up.
We just want to know what happened to our son. We hope the agent will call us and at least return our money. The government should ensure that all the victims' families are financially compensated. We lost our son, but we also lost a great deal of money.
When Ali set out for Europe in May 2023, his family had high hopes that he would work there and send money home. They wanted to use it to finish building their house. Now, their son is missing.
Our house, our future depended on him. If we ever needed anything, any kind of help, we relied upon him.
It's a difficult situation for the farming family, made even harder by the fact that inquiring with the authorities leads to a dead end.
The real criminals aren't the smugglers, it's the authorities. When we file a case, the person who gets accused spends a few months in jail, but then the officials get bribed and let him go.
Many other victims make similar accusations, but the authorities refuse to take responsibility. But what exactly is driving people to flee Pakistan for Europe? This crisis began developing in Pakistan decades ago. In some regions, it was triggered by economic crises and political instability. But food insecurity and volatile safety are also driving people to flee. Established smuggling networks organize the illegal passages of refugees from Pakistan through Iran, Turkey, and Libya. In recent years, both official and unofficial migration from Pakistan has increased significantly. Since the 2022 ousting of then Prime Minister Imran Khan, the country has been wrought with instability. A severe economic crisis, high inflation rates, and a rise in violence along border regions have become a part of daily life. Authorities say that by September 2024, more than 700,000 Pakistanis had left the country in search of better job opportunities. Rural areas are particularly affected. Many cannot afford to go abroad legally, so they often opt for unregulated routes. While Pakistan was not among the top 10 countries of origin for people arriving in Europe in 2022, it is now in the top 10. Gujranwala city in the northeast of Punjab province. Here we have an appointment in an Imam Bargah, a place of worship for Shia Muslims. Family and friends have gathered to pay their respects to Syed Kumail Hussain, who was laid to rest the day before. His father shows us his grave. The walk there is a heavy one for him. It's customary to recite a few verses from the Quran. According to regional beliefs, this will relieve the burden of the dead.
I only found out 2 days later that he had left. Everyone in the family knew except me. He was afraid it would make me sick, so he didn't tell me he was leaving. 2 days later, I learned he had departed. On the third day, we received news of his death. My son left because he wanted a better future. He wanted us, his parents, to have a better life too. That was his wish. The agent convinced him.
We learn that Hussein died in Bulgaria. The family learned of his death from this video. His friends report that he was tortured by a smuggler and died from his injuries. But this has never been confirmed. Bulgarian authorities sent the body back to Pakistan. We're not permitted to speak to other family members. They belong to a strict Shia sect and refuse to discuss the matter further. But his father wanted to share his story to help other fathers avoid the same tragic fate, he says. But what is the government doing to stop illegal migration? In recent years, some laws have been passed to combat human trafficking, but the problem persists. We meet Imran Bashir, a local journalist and social worker who has been researching migration for years now. According to him, Hussein's story is not an isolated one.
The young men who travel to Europe, especially from rural Punjab, are doing so to secure themselves a better future and escape poverty. For teenagers or men in their 20s, there is no future here. No jobs, and conditions at home are tough. They believe they'll have better chances abroad.
Bashir is concerned because his city has been heavily affected.
Many young men from the city and nearby villages have died on their journeys through Turkey or Libya. Some have been in Europe or on the road for years. They've neither been able to help their families back home, nor have they ever returned.
Many experts and affected families accuse the authorities of either not doing enough or even being part of the problem. We attempted to get a statement from the Pakistani investigative authorities. Nobody responded. Despite the fatalities, the situation has not changed. In the villages, local agents connect with young people who are interested in using smugglers to flee. Today, these two young men are here talking to a smuggler. He has agreed to let us record the conversation.
We'd like to travel to Europe. What should we do?
No problem. We'll get you there. First, you need to take the bus from Multan to Quetta. You'll have to cross the border to Iran on foot. And once you're on the other side, my contact will pick you up by car. You need to pay 15,000 to 20,000 rupees, around 70 euros in advance. For the rest of the journey, you should have about 400,000 to 500,000 rupees, approximately 2,000 euros. It's better to carry cash. It can save you if problems arise. Are both of you going?
Yes, but the shipwreck in Greece has scared a lot of people.
That's true, but we transport our clients in small rubber boats. That incident happened for other reasons. You'll travel safely. I'll be responsible for your safety. Don't worry about it. I'll take responsibility for the trip up to Quetta.
You're only responsible up to Quetta. How will we safely reach our destination?
I'm responsible for the whole journey, both within and outside Pakistan. The people you meet on the other side of the border are also our contacts. You don't need to worry about that. If you're determined to go, you'll make the journey. You know what the situation in our country is like.
Conversations and deals like these are not uncommon. The agents move around relatively freely in the villages. We return to Rukhsana Bibi. Her son Ali also fell victim to promises like these. She refuses to give up. Looking at his photo on her phone, she recalls moments with her son. As a mother, she could never give up on her child, even while she fears the worst. More than a year and a half since the shipwreck on the Mediterranean, and she has still not found any peace.
He hugged me and kissed me on the forehead as he left. He said goodbye to his parents and just left. My last words to him were, "May God protect you." He said that everything would be fine. I don't know what happened to him. We never heard from him again.
Many of the 40 million people worldwide infected with HIV can now lead an almost normal life thanks to specialist drugs. But hundreds of thousands of people still die of AIDS every year, and there are some 1 million new infections. Education and healthcare need to go hand in hand.
Workers from a Johannesburg mobile sexual health clinic prepare for a visit to some brothels. They stock up on supplies, the pill, condoms, lubricants, antivirals, essential provisions for sex workers, and medication for the women who are HIV positive too.
If I have a new client